The person who came was a young man wearing a special police uniform, holding a baseball bat in his hand. Next to him were two soldiers wearing police green uniforms. The three of them walked forward with a majestic aura. The surrounding atmosphere became cold and gloomy to the point of being terrifying. The young man in the lead tapped the shiny stick in his hand, his voice filled with coldness. I don't care what the royal capital's nobles say, but causing trouble in the western city is not allowed. The other four people were overwhelmed by the aura of the three westerners. They stood still and huddled in a corner, their swords raised in a defensive stance, very alert. In the blue sky echoed the groan of pain, ah ah. The young man in the lead gave a cold order to a soldier, you take them to the police station, I will go report the situation to the city lord. Understood. The four bodyguards were beaten black and blue, their bodies were covered in wounds, their faces were swollen but they still opened their mouths and shouted loudly, we are nobles, what do you want to do? The soldier was ordered to hold the rope and tie the four of them up and lead them away. In the city lord's study, Tanging stood up straight with his hands clasped behind his back, clearly reporting the mission situation. The enemy obtained the fake treasure map. Nothing unusual happened during the whole process, and there were no casualties on our side. Very good, Lu Feng sat on the desk, looked at the notebook, listened to the report and was very satisfied with the compliment. Let me review the report and then discuss the details with you. Everyone has worked hard during this time. I'll give everyone 3 days off. Tanging shouted loudly, yes, Lu Feng, with his arms crossed and placed on the table, continued speaking seriously. After the vacation ends, we will start training the new type of soldiers. Next spring I want to see how many new soldiers are placed, but released in short order, not carelessly, the defenders can touch well, can promote many. After hearing this, Tanging shouted again and left the room. Lu Feng used one hand to support his cheek and the other hand to flip through the notebook and continue reading. The slaves from the Blade City have stabilized now, with a source of labor next year's productivity will definitely increase. In the future, if we only rely on Sorrow's merchant fleet, we're afraid that consumption won't be able to keep up with production. Shiyang City must have its own merchant fleet. Knock, knock, the knocking sound came. Mina outside said, young master, Miss Darlene asks to see you. Oh, maybe I should start here, Lu Feng thought to himself. As soon as Darlene entered the room, she immediately lifted the sides of her skirt, bowed her head respectfully, and thanked Lu Feng for treating Katherine. Katherine was awake, but it was not convenient for her to get out of bed yet, so she asked me to come and express her gratitude to him. Lu Feng saw this and replied, let's do it, sit down, I also have something to tell you. Darlene received the invitation and immediately sat down across from Lu Feng. As soon as she sat down, she heard Lu Feng continue speaking. She was Sorrow's daughter, so she must understand his fleet quite well. I want to ask, on your ship, are there any workers who know how to build ships? Yes, Darlene replied, hearing that Lu Feng smiled excitedly, to be honest, I want to open a shipbuilding factory to create some big ships. So I need some experienced workers, I can pay high salaries, I wonder if you can give me some people? Darlene paused to think for a moment, this western city wasn't that big, what did the city lord want so many ships for, and she quickly agreed. Okay, fine, but we have 12 large ships 30 meters long docked on the western city river, Mr. Lu Feng, isn't that enough? For now, 12 is enough, Lu Feng replied, but we have to look at long-term development. Besides, your 12 boats are not considered big, the big boat I'm talking about is at least 50 meters. Darlene was a bit surprised when she heard the word 50 meters. She analyzed, brother Lu Feng, you're joking. Not to mention that the cost of making a 50-meter boat is very expensive, the technique also has to be proficient, it's easy for accidents to happen. Those boat manufacturing factories don't dare to accept the production. You don't need to worry about this, I already have my plan, you will know when the boat is made, Lu Feng smiled and reassured. Lu Feng was currently thinking about his plan. Once he had the workers, plus the blueprints and tools he brought from Earth, he would probably have a ship ready to launch next year. Once he had the ship, Shiyang City would be the largest commercial city on the banks of the Yushui River. As for salary, I can pay each person 500 copper coins per month, the more skilled the person, I hope Darlene can agree. 500 copper coins, this salary is twice as high as the price in the outside factories, does this person really have a plan? He doesn't think that he can build such a big ship with just a few workers. Well, I've already told him how powerful it is, if he's stubborn, I can't blame myself. After a moment of mental struggle, Darlene decided to sigh and give up and respond to Lu Feng. Alright, I'll convey your idea to the crew, when the time comes, the crew members who are interested will come to apply at the city lord's mansion. Lu Feng smiled when he heard that. Great, then I'll have to trouble Miss Darlene about this. At this moment, another knock came on the door, this time it was Mr. Sorrow. Was it father? Sorrow entered the room first, greeted Lu Feng, then turned to Darlene. Oh Darlene, you're here too? As a noble lady, Darlene did not know the rules of greeting, so she lifted her skirt and bowed to her father. Father, there were some things that delayed her so she did not have time to greet you. Mr. Sorrow also waved his hand happily. The city lord had already sent someone to inform father. As long as Miss Katherine was fine, that was enough. After talking, Sorrow and his father sat down again. Lu Feng saw that the situation was stable and continued to discuss. Today, I invited Mr. Sorrow here to continue discussing the previous cooperation. Last time, I talked about the fabric business. I will let Mr. Sorrow transport it to the place of consumption and Mr. Sorrow only needs 1% of the profit. Darlene sat next to her father and heard this number. She couldn't help but be shocked. 1% profit, was it that low? As for Mr. Sorrow, he did not object. That's right, according to the amount of cloth that the lord of the city promised last time, the annual sales volume would be around 1,000 gold coins. Such a sales volume was a bit surprising, but the profit was still too low. Why did father agree? Darlene beside him was a bit puzzled but did not dare to speak up. On the other side, Lu Feng continued to negotiate. This time, he mainly wanted to confirm the scope of consumption and the types of consumption. The goods were delivered to you for transportation and consumption, but there was one requirement: the goods could only be sold in the royal capital. What? Darlene and her father exclaimed in surprise. At this point, Darlene could no longer remain silent and spoke directly. Forgive me for being rude, Mr. Lu Feng, your request is indeed too harsh. Lu Feng was still in no hurry. He continued, of course, I will not let you work for free. I will increase your sales profit percentage to 5%, at the same time, the variety of goods will also increase to 5 types. Lu Feng handed a piece of paper to Mr. Sorrow. He could look at the list and decide, but I would like to emphasize again that these 5 items can only be sold in the royal capital. Without my permission, they cannot be sold in other cities. Sorrow took the list, read it through, and was suddenly startled. Okay, let's sign the contract. Darlene sat next to him, not understanding what was written in it that made her father agree so quickly. She could only squeeze his hand and say loudly, Dad, but it still couldn't change his decision. After signing the contract, Sorrow and his father arrived at the drunken tower. Father, you're too late. That brat gull was already waiting at the seat. Seeing his father's figure, he shouted, Devil, no, sister, why are you here too? Hearing her younger brother call her a devil, Darlene couldn't help but get angry. She held her little brother's head and tried to discipline him with a smile on her face. This little boy, after not seeing him for a few days, has grown bolder and bolder. He dared to call his older sister a devil. The little boy knew he was wrong and immediately apologized profusely. Ah, sister, I was wrong. The reunion quickly stopped. The 3 of them sat down and prepared to order. Darlene turned to her father and asked, Dad, I need an explanation. Why did you agree to such a condition? Mr. Sorrow still very calmly picked up the menu. Darlene, do you think I'm confused? Otherwise, Darlene replied, although the purchasing power in the royal capital was huge, the number of people was limited after all. So basically it was impossible to expand the business, nor could it make much money. Sorrow sat down and pointed at the menu to order for the waiter behind him, a braised fish, a lion head, then said, You are still too young, you don't understand the Western city, only using your own experience to judge the value of the city, like that you can't do business. Sorrow handed the menu back to Darlene. Look, what do you want to eat? Darlene's hand reached up to take the menu but her mouth was still frowning. But those things were just heard. She suddenly looked at the menu and was surprised. Broccoli, it was winter now, how could there be green vegetables, wasn't that a lie? Little Gull beside him quickly said, No, I've eaten it several times, it's crispy and sweet, very delicious. Hearing that, Darlene turned to her father and asked suspiciously, Was it grown by Lu Feng? Dad, can I see the list of products Lu Feng gave me? Sorrow did not hesitate to give the paper to his daughter. Darlene took it and read it. Paper, toilet paper. What is packaging paper? Wine, canned meat, perfume. Father, what is perfume? Isn't this something that can only be produced in the royal capital? I also heard that it is the 4th prince's property. Furthermore, the shelf life of this thing is only a few days, how can we transport it? Mr. Sorrow smiled and explained to his daughter. The perfume that the city lord produces is different from the one in the royal capital. The scent of the perfume is fresh and elegant, and can be preserved for up to 6 months. Hearing this, Darlene stood up with an expression of disbelief and asked again, Can perfume be preserved for 6 months? If that's the case, then perfume is a product with huge profits. No matter how many nobles there are in the royal capital, then even 5% of our profits is already very good. Father, now I seem to understand your evaluation of Lu Feng. The needle cures Catherine's illness, winter greens. 6 months perfume, the lord of this western city, is much more formidable than I imagined. Darlene analyzed as she slowly sat down. Mr. Sorrow saw his daughter's expression just now and poked his daughter's shoulder with a deep gaze, teasing her. Daughter, you're looking at Lu Feng with different eyes than before. Listen to your father's advice. If you don't like anyone yet, you can also think about Lu Feng, he's also quite good. Darlene heard her father say that. A half-drunk cup of water she was drinking immediately spilled out. Blushing and standing up, sorrow still did not stop. As for being smart, Lu Feng is also smart. Isn't that great? If you don't do something, someone else will snatch it away. Dad, Darlene was speechless. Sorrow finally stopped. The three of them began to eat. A moment later, outside the drunken tower. Father, I'll take my leave to return to the city lord's mansion first to take care of Katherine. Darlene said, then glanced at her younger brother. Gull, please study hard for me. Little Gull hid behind his father and only poked his head out a little in response. I know. Darlene said goodbye to her father and headed towards the lord's mansion, passing by Fate Pizza. Through the window she suddenly saw a figure, and immediately remembered someone. That girl looked just like Lelisa. At the city lord's mansion, Katherine was lying on the bed alone, facing the ceiling, boredly shouting, "That Darlene, why is it taking so long to thank someone? I'm about to starve to death." Knock, footsteps echoed. "Ha, finally back, you left me alone for so long, I had to scare you." Katherine was naughty, hiding her whole body in the python. As he approached, he quickly jumped up and let out a loud scream to scare the person who just walked in. "You've been gone for a long time, Darlene." Katherine hadn't finished her sentence, but when she saw that the person in front of her wasn't Darlene, her entire body instantly turned to stone. A scream echoed through the sky, startling the flying birds and causing them to scatter. Katherine cowered back against the wall, her face flushed with embarrassment. It turned out to be Lu Feng. "Sorry, I was rude just now." Lu Feng saw that she must be embarrassed, so he smiled happily to comfort her. "Seeing that you are so energetic, I am relieved. I brought you some porridge." Lu Feng brought the tray of porridge in front of Katherine. "Come here, let me see if you still have a fever." Lu Feng slowly moved his hand closer to Katherine. "This city lord is so handsome." Katherine was stunned, her eyes shining. Lu Feng placed his hand on Katherine's forehead. It's still a bit hot. Let me go get you some medicine, you eat your porridge first." Katherine's face was dazed and lustful. Without thinking much she nodded. Okay. Lu Feng left, but she was still sitting there in a daze. As soon as she reached the door, Lu Feng ran into Darlene. "Oh, Mr. Lu Feng. Miss Darlene, you're back. Miss Katherine's condition has improved a lot. She'll recover with a little more rest. Go visit her." Darlene thanked the Lord and entered the room. She picked up the bowl of porridge and grumbled to Katherine, whose face was still immersed in love. "Why are you sitting up? Be careful not to catch a cold." "Darlene, I just met my Prince Charming. He is genuine, handsome, and has a lot of charisma." Seeing her friend like that, Darlene thought she was dreaming. She sighed, "I told you not to read too many novels by Princess Lucy. Now that you're sick, you shouldn't be dreaming anymore." Katherine pouted and replied, "My good friend was nowhere to be seen, so I could only daydream to kill time. I was just discussing business with my father, so I didn't see him anywhere. Now that I think about it, when I said goodbye to my father, I saw a girl who looked a lot like Lelisa in a shop, really did. The more I thought about it, the stranger it felt." Katherine was surprised. "Lelisa, didn't the boy say she ran south? Did you see clearly?" Katherine said, still holding the spoon in her hand. "I'm not sure either. That girl's hair is gray, and I saw her greeting others. She seems very familiar with this place." Hearing that, Katherine smiled mischievously and suggested, "My illness has gotten much better, why don't we go look for it tomorrow, regardless of whether it's true or not, just confirming it won't be a problem." Katherine nodded, "Then you should eat your porridge. Does your head still hurt?" Katherine picked up the bowl of porridge and tasted it, then exclaimed, This porridge is so delicious." On the streets of the western city, people were bustling and busy. Katherine pulled Darlene's hand and walked while saying, "Wow, the conditions in the western city are even better than the royal capital." When she saw a human and a beastman in front of her, she pulled Darlene in and whispered, "Wow, the beastmen here can still coexist with humans. Unbelievable, isn't this the scene Princess Lucy mentioned in the novel? Princess Lucy must love Shiyang City very much." Darlene heard that and also smiled and replied, "Yes, Shiyang City is very peaceful. Wait until we return to the capital and I will tell Princess Lucy everything about Shiyang City." The two happily entered Fate Pizza, and as soon as they entered, they saw a gray-haired girl sitting at the table in front of them. Ah, it was her. Lelisa. Darlene stepped forward and touched the girl's shoulder. The girl turned her head in surprise. "Ah, sorry, we got the wrong person." Katherine waved her hand to speak for the embarrassed Darlene. The other girl smiled. "Oh, it's okay. Darlene and Katherine turned around to leave. Darlene sighed, "I must have seen wrongly. Lelisa probably went south long ago." Katherine gently comforted her, "Don't be disappointed. She's so amazing, she'll definitely be fine." Darlene, Katherine, a familiar voice called out, causing Darlene and Katherine to turn around in surprise. Lelissa, oh my god, is it really you, Lelissa, why are you here? Lelissa replied with a smile, it would be a long story, but why are you guys here too? Darlene happily replied, I came here to discuss business while Katherine came here to play, in contrast to Darlene. Katherine put her hands on her hips and asked, Lelissa, why have you become so ugly, why do you dress like that? Lelissa heard that and said in a low voice, there are many people here, let's go home and talk. The other two quickly nodded in agreement. In the evening, at Lelissa's house in Xi'an City. Then it's too dangerous, Darlene said as she took a cup of hot tea from Lelissa. Xi'an City is still located in the Yinglu Kingdom. If something unexpected happens, your identity as a goblin is exposed, the bounty hunters will immediately hunt you down. Katherine added, why don't you come back to the capital with us? That's right, if you don't want to go south, then come back to the capital with us. Back then in the capital, Katherine and I were there to cover you, so you had time to escape. Now in Xi'an City, without any support, if you're noticed, it's easy to get caught. Lelissa was very touched when she heard her two friends say that. She knew that luckily she had you guys in the royal capital that year. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to reach Xi'an City. Lelissa reached out to hold her two friends' hands and continued, the western city cannot be compared to other cities, here the beastmen and humans can live together peacefully, no one will care about their origins. Furthermore, the lord of Xi'an City, Lu Feng, is a special person. He personally promised that any race living in Xi'an City will be protected. Lu Feng's image appeared in Lelissa's flashback. He once affirmed that if they lived in my territory, whether it was humans, beasts, or elves, I would protect them. Lelissa said so, but both Katherine and Darlene were still very worried. Darlene said, Lu Feng is really not an ordinary person, but he has to take care of so many things by himself, how can he pay attention to you? Katherine, who was sitting next to him, agreed. That's right, you should return to the capital with us. There are fewer rumors about you in the capital now. It's fine if you disguise yourself and live in our house. It's safer than being alone in a foreign land anyway. Lelissa heard the two people talking and smiled slightly, shook her head and refused, reassuring her two friends, the city lord was really busy. But in Xi'an City, there was also a police station to maintain order. Last time, a group of slave traders wanted to come and arrest me, but they were arrested by the police station. I am really safe here. Moreover, compared to the life of hiding here and there, I can work and earn money to support myself in the western city. This is the life I want. Darlene saw Lelissa's determination and finally gave up trying to persuade her. If you say so, then I have no other choice. But if you need anything, we will definitely help you. Lelissa blushed and smiled, thank you guys. The night was getting late, the full moon was shining brightly in the sky. The girls were still talking in the small house. Lelissa happily suggested. It's late. You guys stay at my house tonight. By the way, tell me the news in the royal capital during this time. Okay. Your house is really nice. Darlene praised it, so Lelissa explained, this is a rental house that the city lord built. It's similar to a hotel. But the rent is very cheap. There's also a police patrol at night. It's very safe. Katherine. Let's rent a room and move in. Katherine was startled when her name was called. Why? You are the Duke's daughter, you can't stay in a strange man's house for a long time. Go say goodbye to Lu Feng tomorrow. Katherine heard that and pouted. Sighed. Early the next morning. In front of the entrance, Lu Feng's group stopped. City Lord. We've arrived. The destination is the eastern city of Taiduan, the headquarters of the military and political department. Lu Feng and Mina got off the carriage to observe the group of people training. Hurry up for me. A voice shouted. Lu Feng immediately paid attention. You cowards, I'm telling you, in 1 month, whoever fails the test, get out of the military department for me. Go home and eat at home. That was the voice of Neo Dai and the group of people carrying logs below. The people who were training, although very tired, still shouted. Clear. Neo Dai saw Lu Feng coming and immediately ran over. Young master. You're here. Lu Feng immediately smiled and asked about the situation. What's wrong? Is someone not able to take it anymore? No, still 350 people. Next month, prepare to wear armor and practice. The horses will take about 6 to 7 days to arrive. At that time, take care of them a bit. Also let them practice riding horses. That's right. The necessary training of veterans cannot be stopped. Young master. Don't worry. I'll take care of it. 2 people. One person said. One person replied. Lu Feng was very satisfied when he heard the answer, he thought about it. This would be the main force of Xi'an City. Plus the veterans. It would be an army of more than 400 people. Combined with the armor he designed. Not to mention sweeping the world. But dealing with a 1,000-man cavalry army would be no problem. And the navy must be quickly created to escort. Those city lords are not good people either. The Golden Road on the water is not very safe either. Suddenly, Lu Feng turned to ask. By the way, is the wood they transport dry wood? Yes. It's all dry wood. Niu De replied. Lu Feng immediately suggested. Then it would be just right, let them go to the Yukam mountain range to transport timber. Transport 3 times a day. Ngu Dai was stunned after hearing what he said. Young master, moving here will be tiring. No, let them move to the port next to the Black River. Right at that time, they are building a shipyard there. They need a large amount of wood. Niu Dai then breathed a sigh of relief. So that's how it is. Practical training for life. Wise young master. Back at the city lord's mansion, Ellie was sitting on Lu Feng's desk. Avery was playing with the panda Caesar on his shoulder. Lu Feng looked out the window with a serious expression, his arms crossed in front of his chest and asked, Ellie. How much gold is left in Xi'an City now? Let me see. Ellie jumped down to the ground and opened the ledger to reply. Young master, there are still 1,223 gold coins in the city treasury. Reduce factory wages and focus on investing in the military and infrastructure of Taeduong City. The amount of gold that can be mobilized during this time in Xi'an City is already running out. Furthermore, in 2 days, the Joseon Warhorse team will arrive here, and another large sum of money will be needed. Lu Feng frowned after hearing the report. The other side's market would have to sell off the goods until next spring to recover the gold coins. Besides, other places that needed to spend money could not be reduced either. Young master, the call made Lu Feng turn his head in confusion. The people in the room spoke one by one, first Ellie. Young master, I still have 22 silver coins. I can buy some candy. Next was Nicole. Young master, I also have some money. If it's not enough, I can borrow money from dad. As for Dees, she was embarrassed. I spent all my money. Mina also said, I can accept the hunting quest. It's been a while since I've done anything. It's time to get some exercise. Me too. Lu Feng looked at everyone with emotion. He smiled, all right. It's not like we don't have anything to eat at home. You guys keep that money. You can buy some things you like later. Ellie hesitated. But I say, Ellie. Have you forgotten about the income from Tai Tu Lao? Right. That's right. Ellie hurriedly opened the notebook again. Here, how could it be? Only 3 days and already earned 7 gold coins. Young master, with this income, we can barely last until next spring. Lu Feng rubbed his chin and nodded. Ellie continued. But if Darlene's team couldn't reach Xi'an City on time, then it would be a bit of an import loss. Lu Feng replied with a smile. As long as they could sell the goods in the royal capital, it would be fine. That shipment is not small. Just in case. Don't worry. Sorrow is not a cautious person. Suddenly, Avery said suddenly. If only there was an auction. I could rob those rich and unscrupulous merchants. Listening to Avery, Ellie's eyes lit up and she tapped her hands together, suddenly thinking of an idea. She immediately said to Lu Feng, her eyes still shining like stars. Her tail wagged happily. That's right, young master. Let's hold an auction. Invite merchants to participate in the auction. I can auction off the limited edition lollipops. The others also agreed. I can auction all my Coke. Mina said. Nicole only had 1 can of Coke left. So did Dees. Avery was confused. My Coke was gone. Stop. Everyone is like this, making me feel like I'm going bankrupt. Lu Feng looked at his wine cabinet. But the auction isn't bad. It's just that we're not organizing it, we're participating. Hearing that, Mina, Ellie and Dees felt confused. Suddenly, big question marks appeared above their heads. Join? In a luxurious room. The chandeliers shine brightly. In the center of the room was a wooden table. On it was a tray of wine. Katherine and Darlene sat neatly. Beside them were Lu Feng and Nicole. Lu Feng spoke first. You two have just returned. I shouldn't have bothered you. But I have something I want you two to appraise. The two of them looked at the 2 glass cups and a beautiful bottle of wine in front of them. Darlene looked at it and silently commented. This is a black glass bottle. Lu Feng raised his hand to ask for help. I hope you too can taste a little of this wine. Help me calculate its value. Katherine and Darlene looked at each other suspiciously for a moment. Then raise the glass containing wine to your lips and take a sip. After trying it, Katherine did not hesitate to praise it. It was delicious. The flavor was not too strong. A little sour and sweet. Darlene also admitted. This is the first time I have drunk such a good wine. If it is a great noble who likes to drink wine, at least spend 10 gold coins to buy this bottle of wine. Such a good wine. It is really hard to predict. If lucky, the price can be even higher. Katherine was not as good at business as Darlene. She was startled by the price Darlene gave. Was it that expensive? She turned to Lu Feng and said shyly. Unfortunately, I've already finished drinking. Such an expensive wine. Let me pay for it for you. Lu Feng generously said without taking it to heart. No need. No need. I still have something to ask you too. Do you two know which city-state is having a big auction recently? Darlene replied. There is a place 7 days away. There is Tanging City. 20,000 people live there. The city lord is Count Tenge. He holds an auction every month. Now there are 11 days until the next auction. Oh. A city of 20,000 people. Lu Feng thought to himself. It's a big city. So there must be a lot of rich merchants and nobles settled there. There's still plenty of time. Enough for me to return to Earth and come back. Darlene saw that Lu Feng did not say anything more and asked. Brother Lu Feng wants to go there. To auction this wine. That's right. Lu Feng replied. If there are not many stocks, this is indeed a method to maximize profits. Katherine blushed and shyly suggested when she heard him admit it. Then Lu Feng could set off with us. Lu Feng readily agreed. Received consent. Katherine shyly bowed her head. Darlene sat next to her as if she had discovered something. Her mouth opened wide in surprise. Wait. Katherine doesn't like Lu Feng, does she? The Duke's daughter likes a small noble in a remote place. If the Duke knew about this, he would definitely be very angry. No, I have to talk to Katherine once. It's best to ask Lelisa to advise me. Darlene continued to look over and saw that Katherine was still embarrassed. She could only sigh in her mind. This is playing with fire. It was daytime. But inside the police station there was no sunlight. Darkness prevailed. In the police station's holding cell. In the flickering light of the torches on the walls. A loud voice shouted. Get up! Get up! Don't let them come back in here! A young man was sitting against the wall. He was wearing armor. He was emitting a murderous aura. He seemed to be so angry that his whole body was purple. Looking at the group of people with dirty, pig-faced faces in the detention room, they were giving him unfriendly looks. The policeman scolded loudly. What are you whining about? If you don't leave, you'll be dragged to the mining site. It's true that donkeys like heavy loads. They have to keep it hot. The group of stubborn people, although angry, still had to stand up and walk out of the police station. Thought to himself. Damn Lu Feng. And Darlene. The group of people probably haven't bathed in a long time. Their whole bodies smelled, attracting flies. Under the sun. The scent was even more intoxicating. Made everyone passing by stop and look, but covered their noses. The leader gritted his teeth in hatred. How dare you treat me like that? I will definitely take revenge. In the dining room of the city lord's mansion, Lu Feng was having a meal with everyone. Lu Feng put down his chopsticks and looked at Darlene, who was leaning on her chopsticks and not eating, and asked thoughtfully. Darlene, do you want to say something? Darlene looked at Lu Feng. Seriously replied. Mr. Lu Feng. We want to move out. Katherine is fine now. Really can't stay here and bother you anymore. Katherine sat next to her, not paying attention to what Darlene said. Still happily eating her food. Nicole looked at the two young ladies from the royal capital and asked worriedly, why do you want to move out? Isn't it better here? Everyone else agreed. That's right. That's right. Only Ellie realized Darlene's thoughts and leaned over to Lu Feng to explain. Katherine is the Duke's daughter. If she stays here any longer, she will get a bad reputation. Katherine was afraid that people would misunderstand that they thought this place was not good. She immediately stood up and explained shyly. It's very good here. Miss Nicole's cooking is also very good. It's just. It's just. Lu Feng heard this. Lian replied calmly. I understand. When the power of rumors is not within your control, any explanation is meaningless. I'm afraid that even an honest person will be splashed with dirty water. Lu Feng understood very well in his heart. Rumors are very scary. People in this era have limited knowledge. They are uneducated. One more problem is not as good as one less problem. Lu Feng looked at Katherine and Darlene and asked. So have you two decided where to move? Darlene was polite. She replied a little hesitantly. Thank you Lu Feng for understanding us. We had previously considered a rental house in Shiyang City. The rooms were clean and quite suitable. Lu Feng was pleased to hear that. He turned to Ellie and said, all right. Ellie, she said to Buff. Tell him to bring the key here. Ellie hummed in agreement. Lu Feng looked at Katherine and Darlene who were shyly giving instructions. There are patrols in the residential area so I feel at ease. Come here to play more when you have time. Darlene happily replied. Yes, thank you very much. Not paying attention to her friend beside her. Her eyes were already sparkling with infatuation, looking at Lu Feng with deep affection. At the same time, in front of the city lord's mansion. The group of smelly nobles from earlier were running amok, causing chaos. The group of people wanted to rush into the city, shouting loudly to the guards at the gate. I am Viscount Z, please announce that I want to see your city lord. The two guards stopped them and said, today the city lord is very busy, not receiving visitors, please come back tomorrow. Hearing that, Viscount Z became furious and gritted his teeth, shouting, you, a guard, dares to do this. He was about to rush forward, but the others saw him and quickly stopped him, advising him not to act rashly. The Viscount stopped to think, as long as he could get Catherine's body out and bring it to the Duke would take revenge on him. As soon as he thought of that evil thought, he lowered his voice and said softly to the guard, so when will the city lord have time? This bastard really changes his face faster than he can flip his hand. At this moment, the gate of the city lord's mansion opened, and Darlene and Katherine came out. They saw their men standing there. Darlene asked, Viscount Z, why are you guys here? Viscount Z looked at Katherine with wide eyes in surprise. Katherine was still alive, it couldn't be. Then he laughed coldly, a plot in his head, it was good to be alive, he had another chance to become the Duke's son-in-law. The remaining nobles were overjoyed when they saw Katherine come out and said, Miss Katherine, it's good that you're okay, we were just about to come visit you. Another person added, that's right, there's nothing wrong with your health, right? The crowd seemed to want to rush up and hug and kiss passionately, surrounding Katherine and Darlene. But Darlene and Katherine were cold, their voices filled with resentment. Don't come closer, we have seen your faces clearly. The crowd hurriedly explained, Miss Darlene, what are you talking about? We are all very worried about Miss Katherine's health, we all hope she will get well soon. Katherine heard those hypocrites speak, and at this moment, she angrily shouted, of course you are worried, but it's more like you're worried that I will get well. Katherine angrily said their evil plan, I already know your plan is after I die, you will put all the blame on Darlene. People like you who are afraid of death and live irresponsibly, I don't want to have anything to do with you. When I return to the capital, I will definitely tell my father the truth. Those evil people were terrified when they heard Katherine mention that she would tell the Duke. The leader Viscount Z thought to himself. Once she tells the Duke, his future will be over, he can't let her return. Thinking of this, he immediately put on a scared expression and shouted loudly, everyone be careful, this Katherine is fake. Seeing everyone frozen, he immediately began to manipulate their minds. Katherine's condition was very serious, and the healer who followed her on the ship had also said that her condition was already very dangerous. Even if she was cured, she would have to lie in bed for a long time to recuperate. How could she appear so soon and run around like this? She must be an imposter that Darlene and the West had arranged to shirk responsibility. The real Katherine was already dead. The remaining people listened to Z for a while, not really believing it, but they looked at each other and thought, this Z is really sinister, regardless of whether it is real or fake. As long as Katherine dies in Taeduong City, it will be fine. At that time they can put all the responsibility on Taeduong City Lord, they can both survive and keep their future. What a bunch of jerks, hanging out with each other. Thinking so, they chimed in, right, how could someone with such an illness recover, and moreover, they could walk again in just a few days, this must be fake. As soon as he finished speaking, the group of people rushed towards Katherine. Darlene rushed out to block Katherine. Looking at this group of ignorant people, she shouted, what do you want to do? This is Katherine, the Duke's daughter. Don't try to confuse black and white. The bald man with a fierce face rushed forward and pushed Darlene's head, causing her to fall down. His mouth kept cursing, Darlene, you are also an accomplice. I will arrest you and take you back to the royal capital to pay for your crimes. These shameless thieves, the Viscount continued, I will not allow anyone to tarnish Miss Katherine's name, let's quickly deal with these imposters. The wind suddenly blew up. The gate guard saw that the group of men were about to harm the two young ladies and immediately ran to stop them. What do you want to do? As soon as they approached, the two guards were thrown away by the blonde man's sword. Seeing an opportunity, Z rushed towards Katherine, swung his sword at Katherine, shouted loudly, "The fake thing died." Katherine was scared and cried loudly, hugging Darlene tightly. Her mouth kept shouting for help, "Save me." The sword was about to strike Katherine when a loud sound rang out. Standing in front of the two frightened girls was the Lord of Taeduong City. Lu Feng swung his sword, sending Z flying away. Lu Feng looked at the group of people who dared to cause trouble in front of the city lord's mansion, and in one fell swoop, he basically took care of these shameless royal capital nobles. Lu Feng sheathed his sword and looked at the group of people lying on the ground. He ordered the guards. "Where are the men? Take these four to the police station." The two guards immediately obeyed and shouted. "Understood." Katherine no longer looked scared and crying, instead her face was sparkling, looking at Lu Feng and exclaiming, "Handsome, so handsome." The two words "love boys" are written on her forehead, "sister." Lu Feng kindly approached and apologized, scaring the two of them. Only then did Katherine come to her senses. One of the guards was escorting the scoundrels away. Z still opened his mouth and shouted, "No, no, don't treat me like that. I am Viscount Z, I must sue you. You are the murderer." Lu Feng worriedly looked at the two fragile ladies before him and asked, "Are you okay?" Katherine quickly replied, "No, no, thank you very much indeed. If you hadn't shown up, we would have been in trouble." On the outside, she was calm. But on the inside, Katherine was dancing. Oh my god, my heart was beating so fast. Could Lu Feng be my Prince Charming? The winter weather was cold and snowy. In the castle, the fireplace was always lit to keep warm. The fire flickered. The firewood crackled. Ellie carried a stack of documents. Walked to the desk. Asked Lu Feng, "Why isn't Uncle Buff here?" Lu Feng replied, "Buff has a cold. He's taking the day off today." Looking for him? Ellie put the heavy stack of papers on the table and replied with a thud. "Oh, no wonder the hospital gave me the documents." Looking at the heavy stack of documents Ellie had just brought, Lu Feng secretly exclaimed, "So many." Then he looked at the medical report open on the table. Said to Mina, "The weather is too cold. The number of people with colds is increasing rapidly. The medicine stocked in the hospital is almost used up. Mina, you and Nicole go to the warehouse to get some medicine and take it to the hospital." Mina replied yes. Lu Feng continued, "By the way, tell the doctor. If the patient's condition worsens, you must notify him immediately." Ellie was surprised to see Lu Feng so worried. Question. The weather is cold. Isn't it normal for the number of sick people to increase? Is there a need to be so worried? Lu Feng explained calmly. Of course, illnesses like the common cold are not something to worry about. But if it becomes an epidemic, it will be dangerous. Lu Feng's face was tense as he thought. The level of medical treatment in this world was still very backward. If it became an infectious disease and was not controlled from the beginning, then the Western City would be in danger. Although the medicine brought back from Earth last time was still there, it would eventually run out. In the future, the Western City would have more and more people. It seemed that the plan to build a medicinal garden would have to be accelerated. While Lu Feng was lost in thought, Ellie's eyes widened in wonder at the strange word she had just heard. Epidemic. What was an epidemic? The sound of children's voices broke the silence, attracting everyone's attention. Sister Via. It's so cold. Two rabbit-kin walked over. The little girl in pink Sumi was complaining to her. Via was gentle. She replied softly. Be good. Let's go inside and have a cup of warm water and we'll be warm soon. Lu Feng looked at the little girl and said. The weather is getting colder and colder these days. Haven't tried the hot springs we made last time? Let's soak in the hot springs together tonight. It was dark, and the weather was getting colder. But in one place, hot water was flowing, and steam was rising. It was the hot spring that Lu Feng was talking about. The female beastmen were excited when they saw the hot spring in front of them. They exclaimed. The hot spring was so big. Everyone could take off their clothes and soak in it. The girls wore white bathrobes and walked towards the hot spring. The scenery here was magical, the warm yellow lights and rising steam made this place truly a fairyland. The Tauron girl smiled and threw her cloak open, revealing her toned, honey-colored body and seductive curves in a brown swimsuit. Next to her was the blue-haired rabbit Sumi, who also quickly took off her cloak and called out, Sister Dees, wait for me. Dees jumped hard into the pool, water splashed up, causing the people standing on the shore to suddenly exclaim, ouch. Not far away on the shore, sexy cat Mina in a black swimsuit looked at Ellie shyly covering the person next to her and laughed. Everyone is comfortable, what are you covering for? Ellie covered her chest with her hands and replied sulkily, you evil cat, don't look at me like that. Avery hurriedly brought a scarf to cover Ellie and said, it's cold, princess. Put on your scarf quickly, don't catch a cold. Everyone was soaking in the pleasant hot water, Via said, so comfortable. Nicole, who was next to her, also agreed. That's right, on the other side, Dees and Sumi were happily playing around, splashing water towards Ellie, who was dodging. Ellie suddenly looked at the other two with a bullet-like gaze and said loudly, you want to play, right? Avery and I are on the same team. Avery seemed to not want to participate in this childish game and refused to answer, don't. Ellie continued to hold the ladle and splash water, laughing happily. Via looked at the children playing and said to Mina, children have good energy. Mina also agreed. That's right. She saw Ellie not tired at all. Before she could finish her sentence, a jet of water shot towards Mina, hitting her in the face, surprising her. Turning to look at the innocent child who was laughing loudly, the cat fell into the water. Continue speaking, be more mature. Mina was angry and shouted, Ellie, take your punishment. Ellie calmly replied, Humph, who's afraid of who? Deesa's eyes were shining like stars, I'll play too. Lu Feng wore a bathrobe and walked towards the hot spring. Of course the hem of his robe was hanging loosely, revealing his toned body and six-pack abs. Hearing the question from the next room, Nicole didn't see Ellie anywhere and looked around, asking, why can't I see Flay anywhere? Vea looked around the pool and replied in surprise, that's right, wasn't she here just now? Lu Feng heard this and was surprised, then he looked down at the lake and saw Flay down there, water up to his mouth, blowing bubbles. Lu Feng looked at Flay speechless, and sure enough. Then he asked Flay, why are you here, shouldn't you go over there? Flay replied, there are too many people over there. Lu Feng said loudly, go to the next room, everyone doesn't need to look, Flay is over here. Hearing this, everyone had the same thought, wow, this Flay is so cunning. Lu Feng stepped down to the lake and looked at Flay and asked, what's wrong? Have you soaked in hot water before? Flay quickly replied, no, all bird people don't like water, if you soak in it, you won't be able to fly. The gentle moonlight shines, the starry sky twinkles, the space is hazy, below the hot spring, Lu Feng and Flay soak together. Lu Feng looks at the little Flay submerged in the water and asks, besides the eldest sister, do you have any other friends? Flay was still blowing bubbles underwater, replying, yes, they were in Stone Pillar Mountain now. Hearing about the unfamiliar place, Lu Feng asked, is Stone Pillar Mountain far? Ellie replied, it would take a day. Lu Feng asked again, then it's very far, do you want to go back? Flay still had his mouth submerged in water, and replied, no, I don't want to go back at all, going back would only waste porridge. Lu Feng's face smiled slightly and replied, it's okay, stay here, I have a lot of porridge. Lu Feng turned around and said mysteriously, let's play a game. Flay was surprised when he heard that and asked back, play? Lu Feng replied, let's see who can hold their breath underwater longer. After speaking, Lu Feng opened his mouth to take a deep breath and then dived into the lake. Under Flay's surprised and puzzled gaze, the lake's surface became calm. Then from under the water, Lu Feng sat up, wiped the water off his face and said happily, phew. Great. Flay was attracted by the scene before his eyes, shining brightly, wowing. Then he immediately turned around and dived down like Lu Feng. Seeing that, he smiled gently and looked at Flay, saying, as expected of a child, still very playful. A period of silence passed. Lu Feng looked at the calm lake surface, called out to Flay, then he realized, could it be that the birdman couldn't swim? Lu Feng dove into the water and kept searching for Flay, calling his name. Lu Feng brought the unconscious Flay from the lake to the shore. He loudly called Flay, Flay, don't. He called her hand and gave her artificial respiration, muttering, artificial respiration, she will definitely be fine. Lu Feng lifted Ellie's head, whose eyes were closed. Taking a breath, Lu Feng pressed his hand close to Flay's mouth. Hearing Lu Feng calling Flay urgently, the people from the lake nearby immediately ran over in panic and asked, young master, what's wrong? Come and see, but as soon as they reached the door, they were greeted by the sight of Lu Feng and Flay kissing. Their faces were blank, their eyes were dazed. A cough broke the ambiguous atmosphere. Flay was given artificial respiration by Lu Feng and just woke up, coughing up some lake water. Lu Feng breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing this. Good, that's great. You scared me so much. Flay remembered what Lu Feng had just done, raised his hand to his lips, and turned to ask Lu Feng with innocent eyes. Sir, you want to marry me? Lu Feng was stunned by this somewhat naive and silly question, and let out a gasp. Flay continued, she said that if you kiss, you have to get married, very seriously. Lu Feng saw that and laughed out loud, waving his hands. Ha ha ha, you are only 13 years old, you cannot get married. Seeing that Flay was still firmly of the opinion that 13 years old can get married. Lu Feng continued, okay, you can only marry someone 18 years old or older, so you have to wait until you're 18. Flay happily replied, really? Yes. The beast women were just thinking about it, thinking about 18 years old. Vaya said to Mina. It seems to be enough, and Ellie angrily shouted, hoo, still a little bit lacking. Beside her was Nicole, tears streaming down her face. The next day, outside the city lord's mansion, Lu Feng and Mina stood by the carriage ready to leave. Lu Feng looked at Ellie and Avery. Dee saw them off and said, it's cold outside, go home, take care of the house, I'll be back soon. Seeing Ellie crying, Lu Feng gently told her, don't cry anymore, it's just a temporary separation so that we can reunite better next time. Only if you stay to maintain the overall situation can I leave with peace of mind, and it's not like I won't come back. Ellie's eyes were filled with tears, she looked at Lu Feng and replied, we will wait for you to come back. Lu Feng looked at Avery and said with confidence, Avery, you and Dees both have great responsibilities. During the time I am gone, you must protect everyone and protect the western city. Avery replied, sir, don't worry, just leave the safety of the city to me. Dees continued, don't worry, sir, when you come back, don't forget to bring me delicious food. Lu Feng happily agreed. Okay, I will have delicious food for everyone when we get back. Nicole sat in the carriage, watching everyone say goodbye and set off for Tanging City. She called out, young master, we have to leave. Hearing the call, Lu Feng replied, okay, and got into the carriage with Mina. The carriage slowly started moving. Ellie waved enthusiastically, shouting loudly, be careful on the road. At Fate Pizza, Lelissa was saying goodbye to Katherine and Darlene. Lelissa held their hands and told them, Katherine, remember to write to me after you return to the capital. Katherine happily replied, yes, me too, remember to be more careful, don't let your identity be revealed. Lelissa replied, don't worry, if the secret is exposed, I will go to the royal capital to find you guys, let you guys take care of me. Hearing that, Katherine laughed. Darlene replied while laughing, taking care of 10 people like me is not a problem. The sound of a carriage interrupted the conversation of the 3 people, a carriage appeared. It turned out to be the carriage to pick up Katherine and Darlene. Lelissa realized it was time to say goodbye, she walked over and hugged her 2 younger siblings, saying, you two go, don't keep the city lord waiting too long. Seeing the 2 people getting out of the car, Lelissa waved goodbye and drove carefully. Katherine silently wiped her tears and got into the car. At the suburban port, the sky was blue, the clouds were white, the sun was yellow, the weather was really pleasant, very suitable for a long trip. The carriage carrying Katherine and Darlene had just arrived, and Lu Feng was politely helping the 2 of them down from the carriage. A man, probably a boat engineer, happily reported, City Lord. The boat construction blueprint you gave us is perfect. We didn't encounter any problems in the actual operation, it went very smoothly. Lu Feng helped the slightly surprised Darlene get out of the car and replied, that's good. As soon as possible, it'll be done. The other person replied, with the forest of the Yukam mountain range, and with the help of the soldiers, another boat should be completed by next spring. Darlene heard about Lu Feng's rapid progress in building the boat and was surprised to think he had completed the new boat so quickly, but he didn't say anything at that time. Seeing Darlene's thoughtful expression, Lu Feng asked, what's wrong? Darlene woke up and calmly replied that it was nothing, causing Lu Feng to ask a big question. The sky was clear and the wind was blowing. The boat sailed smoothly on the emerald green sea, waves lapping against the side of the boat. Katherine looked happily at the fish that had just taken the bait, excited, she had caught another one. Darlene, who had not caught any fish, scolded angrily. Katherine, keep your voice down, you scared my fish away. Lu Feng looked at the angry girl and comforted her, saying, don't be impatient when fishing, your mind must be calm, only then will the fish be hooked. Before he finished speaking, Darlene shouted happily, the fish was hooked. Lu Feng looked at his empty fish basket and sighed silently. He couldn't catch any fish and still tried to give advice. Darlene held the blade in her hand and asked Lu Feng, Your Excellency Lu Feng, what did you just say? I didn't hear it, the question was full of smugness. Lu Feng answered evasively, nothing, I just said you look very beautiful. Lu Feng's words made Darlene pause, thinking, what does Lu Feng mean? Why did he suddenly compliment me on my beauty? Could it be, he has some thoughts about me? No, that's impossible, but why? At lunchtime, inside the cabin, a sumptuous dining table was beautifully laid out. Darlene looked at the delicious dishes being served by Nicole on the table and exclaimed, wow, this is so sumptuous, Nicole made it all, right? Nicole put the bowl of soup on the table and humbly replied, it was mainly because the fish everyone caught was very fresh, I just handled it casually. Everyone looked at the food being served and praised Nicole's talent. Darlene covered her mouth and laughed, Nicole, don't be so modest. This is the first time I've eaten such fresh fish, Katherine continued, me too. I didn't expect Nicole's cooking skills to be so exquisite. Mina didn't have time to praise, her hands quickly picked up all the dishes to enjoy, the cat's hobby was fish. Lu Feng thought while eating, after traveling for so many days, calculating the time, they were almost at Tanging City. Time flew by and Lu Feng's boat arrived at Tanging City in no time. At the port of Dangong City, ships are bustling. This port is relatively large. Darlene and Katherine politely bowed to Lu Feng before saying goodbye. Your Excellency Lu Feng, thank you for your care these days. Darlene continued, thank you very much, we are very happy. Lu Feng politely replied, I didn't do anything, if I have the chance, I will welcome you to Shiyang City next time. Darlene and Katherine looked at each other and smiled meaningfully upon hearing that. They replied in unison, sure, then they said goodbye to Lu Feng and the others. Then we'll return to the capital. Goodbye. Hugging Nicole and Mina goodbye, the two left with a goodbye, take care, and be careful on the road. Suddenly, someone passed by and bumped into Nicole, causing her to be startled and almost fall. Lu Feng quickly supported her, pulled her into his arms and asked, are you okay? Only then did the two of them look towards the person they had just bumped into. It turned out to be a group of beastmen, wearing patched clothes. The person who had just bumped into Nicole turned around and coldly said, sorry. Nicole looked at these poor beastmen and wondered, this is, Mina immediately continued to explain, these people are beastmen slaves who must be sent to the slave market. Looking at the crowd, Nicole thought to herself, it turns out that other cities are not as nice as the western city. Lu Feng put his arm around Mina and Nicole and said, let's go into the city and find a hotel to stay at, we can talk about other things later. After drifting at sea for several days, everyone finally arrived at the port of Dangong City. The waves were crashing, the crowd was bustling. After saying goodbye to Darlene and Katherine, Lu Feng's group quickly moved to the inn of Tanging City. Oh my god, the group finally arrived at the biggest and best inn in Tanging City. It was unbelievable. Lu Feng exclaimed when he saw the inn. This is the biggest and best inn in Tanging City. Lu Feng stood in front of the inn with a bored face and shook his head. Mina and Nicole also linked arms, looking at each other without saying a word about this inn. Lu Feng's guard scratched his head and said with a silly smile. Yes. Yes. According to my investigation, this is the biggest and best inn in Tanging City. Oh dear. Okay. Lu Feng replied. Snow was falling coldly on the brown inn in Tanging. The horses outside the inn were also standing in their stables, cowering. Lu Feng and the others walked into the inn. Nicole covered her mouth and whispered to Mina. This place stinks. Our western city is still cleaner. As soon as they entered the inn, Lu Feng and the others heard some words about the heavenly kingdom from the guests in the inn's guest room. It's true. I have a brother who went to the sea and saw the heavenly god. He told me. Lu Feng thought to himself. What is the heavenly god? The people in the inn continued. How could there be anything in the sky? I see your brothers have had too much to drink. The people in the inn continued to talk while enjoying their drinks. There are no items from the heavenly gods. How dare Count Tangay hold this auction? In my opinion, the heavenly gods definitely exist. After Lu Feng heard this, he turned to speak to the guard Sink. Sink, go and find out what the heavenly god is. Yes, young master, Sink replied to Lu Feng. At this time, at the fortress of Tanging. In the great hall of the fortress, Pulley had arrived. Tangay hurriedly greeted him. Pulley, you guys came early. I haven't even had time to prepare wine to welcome you. Pulley smiled and replied. I just heard from your excellency Tangay that there was news regarding the precious treasure of the heavenly kingdom, so I came here immediately. Count Tangay also happily replied to Pulley. Your excellency Pulley, how has your health been recently? The territory's income has doubled again, right? Tangay said this, his face and voice full of hidden meaning and a hint of sarcasm. Count Pulley also disdainfully curled his lips and replied. There is no need to say such polite words. Why am I here? Count Tangay must have an answer in his heart. Tell me quickly. What does the heavenly treasure look like? Pulley was now anxious, curious, and eager to see the heavenly treasure. His eyes widened, shooting straight at Count Tangay. Count Tangay replied without hesitation. Just calm down. You will know by tomorrow night's auction. Why rush? Humph, Count Pulley replied with a contemptuous laugh. Stop acting like this. Tell me, what is it? Let me estimate whether I have enough money. Count Tangay tensed slightly. He frowned, his eyes wide with murderous intent. Pulley's face suddenly turned pale. He said in panic, it's Amos' notebook. He thought fearfully in his mind. What? It's Amos's notebook. He's not kidding, is he? Count Tangay replied calmly. I checked. It's definitely Amos's notebook. Pulley growled at Tangay. Your Excellency Tangay, stop bidding. Give it to His Highness the Fourth Prince. What? Count Tangay stared at Pulley. Pulley continued. Help the prince ascend to the throne. The prince who has the world in his hands will remember the kindness of Lord Tanging. At least he will be a grand count in the future. Count Tanging pretended to be bored. He crossed his arms and shook his head in response to Pulley. There was no other way. I had already announced everything. If I didn't bid, my reputation would be ruined. At this point, his eyes lit up. Well then, I'll take my leave first. I want to go and prepare a bit, Mr. Pulley. Please make yourself at home. Tanging then turned and left, his whole person exuding danger, deep in thought. He didn't expect Pulley to be the fourth prince's man. Then he ordered his subordinates. Spread the news about Amos's notebook. I want it to spread throughout the country before tomorrow night's auction. Understood, Mr. Tanging. At the Brown Inn, questions were running through Lu Feng's mind. He was bored, and suddenly looked at the dishes that were displayed in front of him. Oh my god, this is the best food in your inn. Really, I don't know how to swallow this. The waiter in the inn politely replied. Yes, sir. Lu Feng replied. Okay, take it down. You don't need to bring food up in the future, but I'll still pay for the meal. Yes, the waiter bowed and replied. Nicole, after she couldn't finish eating the dishes on the table, also spoke up. Young master, we should still make our own food. After hearing that, Lu Feng suddenly had an idea. His eyes lit up and he quickly gave his idea. Let's cook instant noodles. I remember bringing some instant noodles here. Oh, it was unbelievable, the fragrant, spicy aroma. The bright red and yellow broth blended with the smooth, golden fat. The bright yellow noodles were long and crispy. On top of the bowl of noodles were pieces of tender, pink beef, along with some fragrant, smoky curry, and some fresh green lettuce leaves. Before he could finish describing, Mina and Nicole had already brought up the bowl of noodles and were eating them deliciously. Lu Feng had to say this when he saw this scene. Eat slowly, there's still a lot left in the pot, no one will eat all of yours. He thought to himself. He didn't expect instant noodles to be so popular with them. That's right, even I was addicted to them on Earth. Nicole said frankly. Young master, this kind of noodles is both delicious and convenient. Just open the package, boil water, and you will have a bowl of fragrant noodles. We can try selling it later, it will definitely be very popular. Lu Feng replied happily. Nicole is getting more and more thoughtful. Okay, after I get back, I will teach you how to make a delicious bowl of noodles. Then, recruit workers to make and sell. Yes, young master. Lu Feng continued, you must be tired after sitting on the boat for so long. Come here and rest for a bit. Lu Feng pointed to the short mat on the bed as he spoke. He continued, it's so dirty here. The mat we brought along isn't even enough. We can only sleep with 3 people. Nicole replied shyly, her face red. This doesn't seem to be good. Young master and Mina should rest first. I'll go clean up the dishes, Mina interrupted. It's not too late to clean up after you're done sleeping. Rest for a while. Nicole replied shyly. As soon as they finished speaking, the 3 of them were hugging each other on the cramped carpet. Everyone was so exhausted that sleeping seemed to be very good. While he was sleeping soundly, suddenly guard Sink knocked on the door. Young master, the Wolf Warrior investigation team staff is back. Oh dear, just woke up. The 3 people yawned with their eyes half closed. Lu Feng replied to the guard. Come in quickly. Guard Sink entered the room, stood up straight and reported everything. My lord, all the intelligence has been gathered here. Lu Feng said, you should tell the news from the heavenly god first. Yes, my lord. Now everyone is talking about it outside. The divine item being auctioned this time is a book called Amos Notebook. Huh, Lu Feng asked with a dumbfounded face, what is Amos Notebook? Yes, my lord, Sink continued. It is said that there was a great knight named Amos who once went into the Forbidden Mountains and searched for the heavenly god. He recorded what he saw and heard during those 3 years. It is also the notebook Amos is in now. Lu Feng put his hand on his chin and asked everyone doubtfully. Does everyone know the origin of this legend of the heavenly kingdom? Nicole quickly replied, Dad and I have been in the western city since we were young, so we don't understand much about these things. Mina replied, I know a little bit. When I was young, my mother told me that the miracles of the heavenly kingdom had appeared several times in the human world. Many people saw a very large mountain peak appearing in the distant sky. Up there the sky is blue, the clouds are white, the sun is yellow, and there are many giant white birds flapping their wings. Nicole was surprised when she heard that. Oh my god, huh, really? That was hard to explain. As for Lu Feng, he sipped his tea, doubts appearing in his mind. The mountain peak appearing in the distant sky somehow sounded familiar. The guard also continued the conversation. I also heard the boatman talk about it. He said he had seen a miracle of the heavenly kingdom appearing, and also the phantom image of a large mountain appearing in the sky. Lu Feng seemed to have discovered something at this moment. An illusion, could it be? Could it be an illusion? Mina saw this and asked, "Young master, what could it be? Could it be that you know about the heavenly kingdom?" Lu Feng slowly replied, if he guessed correctly, the mountain peak that appeared in the sky was real. But the legend of the heavenly god is false. It's just a normal mountain peak, ha. Nicole was confused after hearing that, what? Then why did a mountain peak appear in the sky? Only a god could do this. Lu Feng was still leisurely sipping his tea. He smiled back at Nicole. He wanted to say something but then thought, I can't explain it to everyone here, this is a natural phenomenon caused by the refraction of light. Nicole saw Lu Feng's expression, clasped her hands in front of her chest and said firmly, "Young master, I believe you." Mina also put her hands in front of her chest and said firmly, "Lu Feng, I believe you too." Lu Feng laughed out loud and happily. Why did he feel so reluctant when he heard these words? Finished, he turned to seriously ask Guard Sink, "Okay, let's put the matter of the heavenly kingdom aside for now. Have you investigated the rules of the auction house yet?" Guard Sink answered loudly, "Yes sir, we have investigated." The Tanging City auction will be divided into two parts. The first part is for the Tanging City Lord to provide auction items and conduct the auction for everyone. The second part is for the individual participants to provide auction items. After that, everyone will put them up for auction, and the Tanging City Lord will provide a location for people to use. But, if you want to auction off what you bring, you just need to give Lord Tanging some money. Sink continued to speak calmly and clearly, regarding this second part, "My lord, the auction house will not be responsible for the authenticity of the auction items. The buyer will be responsible for the loss if he accidentally bids on a fake item. Finally, every year there will be a few people who will put up low-quality items for auction, deceiving quite a few people." Lu Feng immediately finished, put down the teacup on the table, and let out a sigh of relief. The rules of the second section of this auction are just right for us. We don't need to reveal our identities and can earn a large sum of money. Interesting, and besides, I've come up with a way to sell the wine at a higher price. Everyone go get your disguises on. Don't stand here and sigh at me, hurry up. At this moment, Lu Feng's guards urged each other. There are many magical methods of the city lord, don't forget our mission today is to spread the news about the divine wine, understood? Let's go. Guard Sink ordered everyone. Climb through the window. Be careful not to let anyone know. At this time, a guard disguised as a person from Tanging City pushed open the door of the inn's dining room. As soon as he entered, he heard several soldiers from Tanging City drinking beer and talking to each other. A soldier said, "Did you hear? This auction will have Amos's book." "Then it's going to be a big deal, isn't it?" the soldier sitting opposite replied. "Even if that noble finishes bidding tomorrow night, nothing good will happen. Hopefully it doesn't cause too much trouble, otherwise we'll be out cleaning up the mess." That's right, that's right. Hello, Lu Feng's guard, now disguised as a Tanging, walked in. He happily greeted the soldiers in a Western accent. "Hello, two knights. May I ask you something?" The two knights turned to look at the disguised guard. "Who are you?" the two knights asked. The guard put a few gold coins on the table, looking like a scholar. The guard continued. "My family name is Graham. I just heard you two talking about the Amos book, don't worry. I don't mean any harm. See the gold coins on the table? They're so prestigious. I just want to ask you something. Both of you calm down and sit down." A soldier shouted. "What's going on?" The guard smiled and slowly replied. "It's also related to the heavenly god. My lord heard that Tanging City has an item called the heavenly god." The remaining soldier angrily tried to interrupt, but the guard did not let him speak. He continued. "If you two already know about the heavenly god, my lord is willing to pay a large sum of money to buy intelligence. Is there another item from the heavenly god?" The two knights turned around suddenly. The guards pretended. "You two don't know. Sorry, please forgive me for disturbing you." A soldier quickly stepped forward to stop him. "Mr. Graham, don't go yet. Sit down and have a drink. I'll treat you." At this moment, both knights stepped forward and sat beside the guard. One of them continued. "That's right, what is this item related to the heavenly gods that you mentioned? Can you tell us? On my word, we will keep it a secret. Tell us, Graham." The guard was tired of having these two clinging to his shoulders for so long. He said. "Okay, but you two must remember to keep it a secret, not to reveal even a little bit, understand? Rest assured, absolutely certain, Mr. Graham." The guard was now pensive, looking hesitant to speak. The knight was in a hurry. The new guard hummed. He said. I heard this from our lord. He knew of a piece of news with a special source. That was, someone brought 3 bottles of wine discovered in the divine heaven into Tanging City. Whisper it, I heard that the wine bottle was made of black glass. The divine wine inside was a blood-red color. The 2 knights listened intently, extremely attentively. They were imagining the mystery of the 3 wine bottles. After hearing the story, the 2 knights hurried back to Tanging City. At the hall of Count Tengay's mansion. He hurriedly reported to the Count the story that the 2 of them had heard from Lu Feng. Count Tengay was stunned. What? The divine wine? The knight replied. Yes, lord, the news of the divine wine has spread throughout the city. Count Tengay thought to himself, buying the Amos book is something that the organization wants me to accomplish. After this matter is over, there is also a possibility that they will let me become a duke. If news of the divine wine gets out, the people might have doubts about the authenticity of the Amos book, leading to the price of the book dropping. Tengay slammed his fist on the table. He screamed. Damn it! Which bastard dared to take advantage of me? Quick! Increase the patrol force in Tanging City and the security of the city gates. If you see anyone who looks suspicious, immediately arrest the person who is promoting the divine wine. Don't let the auction be affected. Listen carefully. Also, thoroughly investigate for me who, exactly, is behind the dissemination of this news. Once you find out, bring it back to me, okay? I want to see who would dare to spread this news in the territory I govern. Yes. Understood. The knight replied seriously. After the knight left, Count Tengay was so nervous that he was sweating. He thought to himself. I hope this doesn't affect your plans. Otherwise. At the same time, at the Tanging City Inn, the deacon covered himself with a red cloak. He said to the bartender. The divine wine. It was a group of merchants who spread the news. The bartender replied calmly. Yes. Sir Deacon. After our men secretly followed, that person's movements were very fast, and he was also very experienced. He finally left them far behind. The deacon snapped. Even you can't follow. Could it be the minions of the Black Hawk Tail? The counterman calmly replied. Sir, it's not like the style of the Black Hawk Tail organization. Their movements are faster, more urgent, and more vicious. They have already harmed several people. The deacon fell into deep thought, holding his wine cup in his hand, thinking deeply. He thought, could it be that the divine wine really exists? Has someone already found the heavenly god? No, that can't be true. How could the heavenly god that the organization had been unable to find for hundreds of years be found so easily? The subdeacon ordered, keeping a tight watch on the Tanging City gate. If you see anyone suspicious, arrest them for me. I will tell Tengay to coordinate the action. Yes, sir. At this time, at Tanging City's Brown Hotel, Guard Sink told Lu Feng, Lord of the City, the communication effect was very good. Today, the people inside and outside the city were all discussing the matter of the divine wine. Lu Feng was delighted. Very good, very well done. There is one more thing, Sink continued. There is one thing, Lord. We were attacked last night, sir. Lu Feng was worried. How is it, is no one hurt? Sink replied. No, the enemy's numbers are not that many. Lu Feng asked doubtfully. Is it a knight? Sink replied. No, it was a group of people dressed in black, their skills were very good, they wanted to know the whereabouts of the divine wine, but in the end they were left far behind by us. Lu Feng exclaimed and praised. Good job, but the other party can have such a reaction speed, then their background is definitely not simple, don't turn the boat around in the sewer. Sink replied. Yes, I will tell the brothers below. And Lord, there is one more thing. Today, the knights in the city caught some commoners discussing the divine wine, trying to control the rumors. Should we take any action? Lu Feng pondered and calmly replied. The news once spread would not die down so easily. It was time to fold one's arms. The more important mission is tonight. Tonight, after the auction ends, there will definitely be violence. Mina is on duty. You pay attention to arranging people outside the auction, if there is anything, support her. In addition, send a few more people to cover our retreat outside the city. Yes, understood, my lord. The next evening, at the auction hall of Tanging City, Count Tengay enthusiastically welcomed all the nobles. Welcome to all of you who have gathered here for this auction. As soon as he finished speaking, everyone in the hall turned to look towards the main entrance of the hall. A graceful, gentle hand of a certain noble lady was gently entering the hall. A noble prince, holding hands with a beautiful princess, was standing in front of the main gate. Everyone was wondering, wasn't this person the prince of some country? He was dressed so splendidly, even the knight's armor was shining. So cool. A few people continued to discuss excitedly throughout the audience. Of course, at most it was the heir of a great noble family. The temperament was truly too noble, the young lady beside him was very beautiful. Who knows, she might even be a princess. Everyone around kept talking very excitedly. Everyone made way for the two people of unknown origin to enter. In the auction hall, the atmosphere was bustling and solemn. Count Tanging greeted everyone very solemnly. "Hello, I am Count Tanging, the Lord of Tanging City." A few people below greeted back in a flurry. "Hello, sir, the one who initiated this auction." Unexpectedly, there were even distinguished guests attending, which really made everyone present proud. At this time, the noble young master spoke up, while traveling. Coincidentally passing by here, heard that there was a book of Amos from the heavenly gods here, so conveniently stopped by to take a look. Hopefully it wasn't a hoax. The noble young lady was still holding the young master's arm and laughing loudly. "Ha ha ha." Count Tanging hurriedly spoke up. "How could that be?" He waved his hand, thinking to himself. This atmosphere, this tone, was definitely that of a prince from some kingdom. Then the count ran towards the young master, flattering and sweetly saying, "Distinguished guest, please follow me. On this side there is a row of seats reserved for distinguished guests like you." Count Tanging then led the two noble young masters into a luxurious-looking room. These young masters and young ladies were none other than Lu Feng and Nicole in disguise. At the same time, in a corner of the hall, Mina was dressed in black, wearing a mask to help her carry out her mission. She didn't pay attention, her hand touched the wooden box causing a noise. At the same time, on the opposite wall, she discovered another person. This person also saw Mina. She gripped the sword in her hand tightly, preparing to attack the person opposite. The other guy also had a thought when he saw Mina. Someone came before me, could it be that they came to investigate the news about the divine wine like me? If he attacked her now, the auction would definitely be affected. He frowned and stared at Mina, thinking. Just wait first, if she affected his plans, it wouldn't be too late to attack. Mina at this moment, her hand holding the sword, she also thought to herself. The young master had said that his mission this time was mainly to sell wine. If he acted rashly, he might ruin the young master's plan. After thinking, she put down the sword. Turning towards the hall, where Lu Feng was sitting in the VIP seats, Pulley hurried over. He said, "Sorry, I'm late." Pulley wiped his sweat and panted as he asked Lu Feng. "Excuse me, who are you?" Before Lu Feng could reply, Pulley stood up and greeted him in a flattering manner. "Your Highness, right? I am Count Pulley. I never thought Count Tanging would invite such a big shot like you to attend this auction." Lu Feng seemed to not care and said lightly, "Hello." Nicole, who was sitting next to him, couldn't help but smile because she couldn't help but feel Pulley's expression. Suddenly, Lu Feng thought, Pulley? Could this be Count Pulley? He is Baron Homa's father. While lost in thought, Nicole covered her mouth and smiled at Lu Feng. "Young master is so naughty, other people call you prince." He greeted so warmly and yet the prince calmly responded to them so gently. As she spoke, Nicole held back her laughter. At this moment, the stage suddenly lit up brightly. On the stage was Count Tanging. He spoke loudly. "Ladies, gentlemen, nobles. Welcome to today's auction. Now, let today's auction begin." Everyone below applauded loudly. Count Tanging continued. "Please, gentlemen, nobles, look at our first auction item. Introducing. This is a knight's sword made by a dwarf blacksmith from the far north. It has a history of 100 years. It is a very interesting collectible. The starting price is 30 silver coins." As soon as I finished speaking, everyone in the hall below started to make noise. "Dwarf blacksmith. I bid 31 silver coins. I offer 40 silver coins." At this point, no one bids more. "Yes," Count Tanging announced. "If no one bids more, I will give you this sword. 40 silver coins, deal. The next item is." The next item was continued. While Count Tanging above was continuously presenting items, everyone below was still making offers and closing deals, while Lu Feng below was yawning. Count Pulley saw this and asked. "Your Highness. Your Highness, is there nothing here that interests you?" Lu Feng smiled and replied. "The things in the western city are better than the things here. It seems that this auction is just to deceive the nobles who don't have much money." Pulley was stunned after hearing this. He thought to himself. This person with good eyesight is definitely not something a prince from a small country could have. Could it be a big country in the east? On stage, through the long line of items, Count Tanging now loudly announced. "Today there is the last item for auction. Let me introduce the Amos book. As he spoke, Tanging held up the dark red book for everyone to admire. He continued. You all know the Amos book, right? I will not introduce its origin. I know many people doubt the authenticity of this book. To prove it, today, I will read a page from the book for everyone to hear. The hall below began to whisper. Count Tanging on stage began to read. Today is my 170th day of searching for Mount Olympus. I have found a miracle. A lake of 5 colors. Absolutely no one would dare to believe it. A lake of 5 colors. The upper half of the lake is emerald green. Tanging continued to read with great interest. The water at the bottom of the lake is orange-red. The left side is blue. The right side is green. The middle is yellow. Looking far away. All there is a lake of 5 colors with brilliant colors. Each lake is different. I decided to rest here for the night. I will continue tomorrow. I have a feeling that I am very close to the kingdom of heaven. Everyone in the hall was in an uproar. Oh my God, how could there be such a lake? Is it a place where gods and goddesses bathe? The others were also talking excitedly. It was unbelievable. Could the things recorded in the Amos book be real? Some other nobles also chimed in. This was definitely the real Amos book. Lu Feng sat in the VIP seats, lost in thought. A 5-colored lake. Geography, temperature, and refraction could all create this phenomenon. It was simply the work of nature. He continued thinking. People in this era were truly superstitious. They would drag gods into everything. On stage, Count Tanging quickly closed his notebook. He said, after listening to the content of this page, whether the Amos book is real or not, everyone will judge for themselves. Now I will set the starting price. The starting price of this Amos book is 300 silver coins. Immediately, in the hall. 500 silver coins. 700 silver coins. I bid 800 silver coins. Everyone was competing to bid to get this Amos book. Only the prince sat in silence. Pulley saw this and turned to ask. Your Highness won't bid? He asked and thought again. If the prince makes a move, the silver coins in my hand might not be enough to auction this book. The hall continued to be chaotic. 900 silver coins. 950 silver coins. Lu Feng slowly replied to Pulley. I was just interested. Besides, I didn't bring much money on this trip, so I didn't plan to participate in this auction. Pulley was secretly pleased. Then I will take action. Lu Feng replied. Please, sir. Count Pulley stood up abruptly and shouted, I bid 1,300 silver coins to auction this Amos book. The entire auditorium fell silent. No one spoke. Count Tanging shouted from the stage. 1,300 silver coins. Anyone else raise the price? 1,300 times 1.1, 300 times 2.1, 300 times 3. Transaction successful. Congratulations on the day Count Pulley got the Amos book. Pulley told everyone to make way. He walked up to the stage with dignity and joy to receive the book. Everyone sitting below was whispering. These bastards absolutely had no good intentions. Tonight we would definitely see bloodshed. Pulley got the book, Amos thought to himself. He nodded as he thought. We must leave here by boat early tomorrow morning. Give this to the 4th prince. It is not safe to stay in this castle. On stage, Count Tanging spoke loudly. Everyone, the first phase of today's auction has ended. The remaining time is free bidding. Everyone, please do your bidding. With that, with a whoosh, all the candles in the hall went out. The room suddenly became dark. Everyone was panicking. What's going on? What happened? Where are the guards? Protect the count? The pulley in the dark was panicking. Protect me and the book. He kept looking around, trembling and holding the Amos book tightly. Lu Feng smiled leisurely. Boom, boom. Mina appeared on stage, looking mysterious. She shouted down. Ladies and gentlemen, I come from the immortal sect, I have no ill intentions. Everyone below looked at each other in confusion. Mina continued. I came here today just to sell these 3 bottles of magic wine. As she spoke, she slowly brought 3 bottles of wine forward. Mina put on a mask, covered her whole body, and placed the bottle of wine on the table. Everyone below was noisily discussing. One person questioned. The one who said that wine was divine wine, then it was divine wine. How do we know if you are a liar? Another person agreed. That's right, we won't believe it unless you let us taste it. The man who was watching Mina from outside saw the situation. He was surprised and regretful. He thought the divine wine was on her. The immortal sect was an organization of the heavenly gods. If he had known, he would have done it earlier. Mina saw that everyone was suspicious and agreed. Of course, he could taste it. She slowly opened the bottle cap. The mysterious voice said, "However, only the person who bids for this divine wine will be qualified to taste it." As she spoke, Mina poured out the wine. A stream of shimmering, blood-red liquid flowed out from the wine bottle. It slowly flowed into a transparent glass on the table. Everyone in the auction hall witnessed the scene. Everyone's eyes lit up like stars. Everyone exclaimed in amazement. "Oh my god, the color is so beautiful, it really is divine wine." Count Tanging was filled with astonishment. This glass cup was crystal clear and shiny. It was truly rare, the wine was as smooth as jade, it could have really come from the heavens. The Count's eyes widened in surprise, determined to obtain this item. However, the people below still did not quite believe it. Someone raised their hand and asked, "What is so special about this wine?" Mina explained that this wine can calm the mind and nourish the body and mind. The most important thing is. Mina paused for a moment, picked up the glass, shook it gently and said, "It can fight aging and prolong life." Count Tengay's pupils shook as he thought, maybe he could fight old age. The other nobles were also shocked, their mouths gaping and shouting, "Impossible." Another person saw that the person beside him did not believe it, pointed at the wine and said, "But look at the color of the wine." Everyone was discussing the uses of this bottle of wine, when Mina raised her glass high and shouted, the starting price was 300 silver coins. Count Tangay raised his hand and bid, 400 silver coins. Another shouted, 4550. Lu Feng sat above, seeing everyone's enthusiasm, he also raised his hand and answered happily, 600. Lu Feng's face had a calm expression, as if this was a very small amount of money. Count Pulley heard this, his face darkened with anger and annoyance, but he said nothing. After thinking for a while, he raised his hand and shouted, 700 silver coins. Hearing this, the entire hall jumped up, their mouths wide open in surprise. This was not a small sum of money, and they were moved, the Count was really willing to spend. The auctioneer's voice rang out, 700 silver coins, the transaction was successful. The Count happily walked up to the stage, took the wine bottle and wine cup from Mina's hands. He spoke in a triumphant and arrogant voice, "Those 2 bottles of divine wine, I will also bid 700 silver coins, I am sure there will be no higher price." Mina thought, selling is selling, as long as the price is high, she nodded and said, "Okay." Hearing the other party's response, the Count smiled happily, already planning for the 3 newly purchased bottles of wine. He thought, 1 bottle will be kept for himself, the other 2 will be given to the organization, my position as Duke is secure. The wine arrived, the Count picked up the wine glass and took a sip. Suddenly, his eyes widened, his pupils shook, his expression filled with disbelief. But then his facial muscles relaxed, and his whole body exuded happiness and satisfaction. The Count smiled and exclaimed, worthy of being the divine wine, it was truly delicious. He felt that with the delicious taste of the divine wine, spending so much money was worth it, price really goes hand in hand with quality. Seeing Count Tengay enjoying the divine wine, the people below were sure that this wine was very good. They looked at each other, full of dissatisfaction. There were clearly 3 bottles, but the Count refused to give them to the others, and only knew how to monopolize them all. After the transaction was done, Mina was receiving the money from the Count. From afar, among the crowd of bidders, there was a person with an angry face, gritting his teeth, looking towards Mina. He stood up abruptly, his eyes like bullets, pointed at the stage and shouted, "Catch that woman for me." He also offered an extremely attractive reward, whoever caught her, I would give 100 silver coins. After he finished speaking, many people suddenly shouted, "I will give 3 silver coins, capture her, I want to know where the elixir came from." Others were not weak and said, "I will give 6 coins. Someone offered a higher price, "I will give 10 coins, capture her." The hall became chaotic. From outside, a group of soldiers rushed in, swords raised, running forward. Mina had expected this situation and took out a smoke bomb, coldly snorted, and said, "Humph, humans are both greedy and stupid." Mina's finger pulled the bomb pin and threw it to the ground. The bomb fell to the ground, releasing a white smoke that covered the entire hall. Everyone in the smoke didn't know what was happening, coughing. Some people were surprised by this scene and asked, what is this?" Some people had smoke in their eyes, saying, "My eyes are stinging, I can't see anything." Others covered their eyes with their hands, but still didn't forget to curse, this woman was casting a spell, killing her. The soldiers rushed forward, swords slashing at Mina. As soon as the sword was slashed down, Mina jumped up, stepping on the enemy's sword. To the shock of the sword-wielding soldier, she turned around and kicked the soldier beside her. That soldier received a kick to the face and flew out, hitting the soldiers behind him, causing them to fall on top of each other. Then another swish, Mina jumped out to run away. Meanwhile, Count Pulley's eyes were irritated by the smoke bomb, and he was coughing. He hugged Amos's notebook tightly and shouted at the soldiers, quickly escort me out, you must protect Amos's notebook. Both the Count and his soldiers were surrounded by smoke, unable to get out. He shouted, who stole my Amos book? Lu Feng and Nicole were wearing gas masks so they were not affected by the smoke bomb. Lu Feng held Nicole's hand and said, it's almost chaos, we should go home. Nicole held Lu Feng's hand and replied, yes. Then the two of them walked out of the chaotic auction hall hand in hand and went home. Leaving behind was the chaos, echoing with Count Pulley scolding and shouting. He shouted, damn it, don't go, give me back the notebook. On the way, Nicole couldn't help but worry about Mina, so she asked Lu Feng, is Mina really okay? Lu Feng reassured her, don't worry, she will be okay. At this moment, Mina was running away from the pursuit. The soldiers behind her were running fiercely after her. While chasing them, they shouted, catch her, don't let her run away, she is the auctioneer of the divine wine of the heavenly god. One of them added, moreover, she also has 2,100 gold coins on her, if we catch her, it will be ours. Hearing this, many unrelated people ran after them, joining in the chase. If they caught them, they would also get a share. Mina turned her head to look behind her, secretly sighing, why are there so many more? Mina ran to a small alley, from the rooftops on both sides of the street. The guards jumped down to support Mina. They quickly dealt with the soldiers. Captain Sink apologized while fighting, apologized to Mina. As if remembering something, he continued, fairy lady, we're late. After saying that, he ordered his subordinates to eliminate them all. They couldn't let them go to the riverbank and expose the young master's identity. Everyone answered in unison, understood. Then there was the sound of banging, popping, cracking, and groaning. Mina and the guards ran towards the riverbank. As they walked, Mina suddenly felt some movement and shouted, wait, then she stopped and told the people behind her, someone is following us. The three people behind looked at each other, their eyes cold and full of murderous intent. At the wasteland of Tanging City, Mina and the four guards looked around warily, saying, someone is following us. Then with a bang, from where the four people were standing, a beam of light shot out, and the four people seemed to fly in four directions at a speed that ordinary people could not see. From behind that rock not far away, the man covered his body, seeing this scene, wondered, where are those people? He had followed Mina's group from the auction to here, but he lost them. He just looked out, the golden ear heard the sound of sword. A guard suddenly appeared from nowhere, his sword slashing at him. He noticed it and quickly dodged, but as soon as he jumped to the side, another guard swung his sword down from above him. He stood there in shock, dumbfounded by the unexpected attack. The beautiful captain slashed his sword, blood flowing from his body. Just injured, he seemed to regain his spirit and quickly ran away. When Sink's group saw this face, they suddenly felt familiar. Captain Sink seemed to remember, saying, I met you in the tavern. He saw that the Sink group recognized him and shouted threats, stop wasting words, where did you get the divine wine? As soon as he finished speaking, Mina slashed at him with her sword. He dodged, but another person attacked, but he dodged again and again. Sink was annoyed when he saw how annoying he was and said, damn it. Suddenly Sink smirked and said, to be honest, he's quite a pro, it's just that. Then he looked back and continued, don't you realize that one of us is missing? From behind him, Nyodai held his sword and slashed down. He didn't have time to pay attention and was hit. Bang, he was hit. After a while, he was tied up and lying unconscious on the ground. Mina also recognized him and said, I met him on the rafters at the auction house, bring him back for the young master to decide. The other three nodded in agreement, yes. At the wasteland of Tenzing City, at the seaport, all the boats were gathered here. The sound of the boat setting sail rang out. On the boat, Lu Feng and his group were talking to each other. Mina and the guards had just finished their mission and returned to the boat to greet Lu Feng. Mina said, hello young master. Sink said, hello young master. Lu Feng saw that everyone had returned safely and replied with relief. Thank you for your hard work. Were there any accidents on the way? Sink heard this and reported the situation. There was a knight chasing after them in the auction house and it was resolved, but there was a person claiming to be from the Bounty Guild and was captured by us. Lu Feng sat down and asked curiously, Bounty Guild? Seeing that Lu Feng did not know about this association, Mina explained. The Bounty Guild is where hunters and assassins trade quests, or accept quests. As long as you have money, come to the Bounty Guild, anyone can find the most suitable person to complete the mission for them. Lu Feng touched his chin and thought, saying, that is to say, he could hire members of the Bounty Guild to follow him. Mina's face darkened, her voice serious as she analyzed. Yeah, I just doubt the Bounty Guild, it's just his stealth tactics. With his skills, the Bounty Guild should be at least in the top 20. But in the top 20, there is no one with such unique characteristics. Lu Feng couldn't help but wonder about his identity after hearing Mina's analysis. Then he ordered, then just lock him up for a few days and interrogate him to find out who he really is. Then Lu Feng turned to Nicole and said, Nicole, tell the kitchen to prepare a sumptuous meal to treat everyone. Nicole nodded and said, yes. Sink saw that he had nothing more to do and said goodbye to Lu Feng. Then he went out, leaving the private space for Mina and Lu Feng. The other two had left. Mina's face was beaming, her voice was cheerful. She stepped forward to claim credit. She opened the gold coin box and said, "Young master, your gold coin." Lu Feng saw the gold coin box and Mina's expression, then happily took the coin box. Suddenly Lu Feng put the box of gold coins on the table, stood up, and walked over to hug Mina. Mina's face was red with happiness, but she suddenly realized she hadn't showered yet, so she quickly pushed Lu Feng away and said, "Young master, I'm dirty." Lu Feng reached out to stroke Mina's hair, his voice filled with concern and love as he said, "What nonsense are you talking about? You've worked hard this time." Mina was so concerned by Lu Feng that she didn't push him away anymore but hugged him tighter, happily replying, "I'm very happy to be able to help the young master." Lu Feng put his hands around Mina's face, looked at every detail on her face, and said, "Okay, let me see my little kitten, you're looking forward to it too, go take a bath first." Mina's face became even redder as she shyly pushed Lu Feng away to go take a shower. As if remembering something, Mina turned her head and said, "Oh, I almost forgot about this." Mina then took out a red notebook from her pocket. "This is Amos's notebook." She smiled and handed the book to Lu Feng. "Young master, this is also very expensive at auction, and I saw that you looked interested, so I took it." Mina then put on a face like a cat that still needs a reward. Lu Feng saw Mina's cuteness, so he raised his hand to Mina's head as if to reward her and stroked it. He didn't forget to warn her that it was very expensive, and that she shouldn't take such risks again next time. Mina nodded in agreement after being patted on the head. Hearing Lu Feng say to go take a shower, she happily walked out. After Mina went out, Lu Feng opened the notebook to read. When it was time for dinner, all the food was ready on the table. Lu Feng was still studying the book. Nicole saw that it was time for dinner and urged Lu Feng, "Young master, it's time to eat." Lu Feng put the book aside, nodded and said, "Okay." Feeling satisfied, this Amos's diary is quite interesting, just like adventure novels. It's been a long time since he read such a good novel. Nicole saw her young master reading so attentively. She asked, "Young master, are you going to find the gods of heaven? I see that you seem to be very interested in this Amos diary." Lu Feng replied, "If it's an expedition, then going on a trip wouldn't be a problem." Nicole asked eagerly, then young master can take me with you? I can cook for you." Although she said that, in her mind she was already thinking of the prospect. The road to the heavenly country was full of dangers, and once she got to the heavenly country, she might never be able to return. Lu Feng heard that and smiled and replied, "Okay, when the time comes, I will take you along." He thought helplessly, does that little girl Nicole really believe that angels really exist? Mina saw that and raised her hand, "Me too, I want to go too." Lu Feng could only agree, saying, Okay, let's go together then." A noise was heard. Niu Dai looked panicked. He entered to report, "City Lord, there is a disturbance at the riverbank." Lu Feng and the others were surprised and went out to the deck to look. Niu Dai stood by and explained. They heard that Count Pulley had ordered a search of all the ships, probably looking for Amos's notebook. The boats in the harbor were on fire. Count Pulley shouted, urging his subordinates, "Find them for me, if you can't find them I will burn them to death." Lu Feng looked at this scene and said, "I'm afraid it's not just a note, they want to take the opportunity to find that person." Mina said from the side, "Fortunately the young master is smart, he left the port early." Lu Feng was praised but not happy, thinking in his mind, "How could I not be smart, you and your notes are all on that boat." Looking at the burning boat, lighting up the sky. Nicole said, "They were too much, even if they lost something, they couldn't burn someone else's boat like that." There was a loud shout, "Lord of the city, a letter has arrived from Xi'an City." Nicole took the letter and read it. The young master, Miss Ellie, said Flay was disobedient and refused to go to school. Lu Feng sighed and replied, telling her that if she didn't study properly, she wouldn't be able to go to heaven. Also, tell Ellie a few words, we'll be back a few days late. Nicole was curious, a few days late, where does the young master want to go? Lu Feng looked into the distance and said, going to Blackwater City. Nicole standing behind still didn't understand. Blackwater City is a small city, with only 2,000 people. Located at a branch of the Yu River, next to the Blackwater River. After winter, the surface of the Blackwater River will freeze. No boats can pass through, and Blackwater City will become an isolated city. Although the lord of the city, Baron, is a very good person and loves the people of the city. But the land of Blackwater City was barren, and before winter came, bandits came to plunder it again. The food reserves were not enough for them to get through the harsh winter. A spear was stabbed into the water, but missed, the fish swam away. The girl held the spear and groaned, but missed. She was the daughter of the Baron City Lord. The girl was worried and sad, her father had been depressed about food lately. But in the middle of winter, the other cities refused to sell food, and Blackwater City was not rich either. I originally wanted to go to the river to try my luck and see if I could catch any fish to make my father happy. On this side, she couldn't catch any fish, but on the other side, Mina kept catching fish. Mina called out, "Young master, I caught fish again." The city lord's daughter was annoyed by this contrast. Who would have thought that not only could she not catch any fish, she would also encounter a group of strange people. Not far away, Lu Feng's group was setting up camp and lighting a fire to grill fish. Mina brought back a bunch of fish and said as she walked, "Young master, these fish are so stupid. Just catching them randomly is enough, there's no achievement at all." The city lord's daughter felt her heart bleed when she heard this. This was too much. "I waited for 3 hours and still couldn't catch a single fish." She caught a bunch of fish just for playing around, but she also said the fish were stupid. Then wouldn't I be even more stupid than those fish? Ignoring the other side, the girl was still hurt and depressed. This side had a different atmosphere. Nicole brought a plate of grilled fish, inviting "Young master, the grilled fish is done." After speaking, she placed the fish on the table. Lu Feng took the plate of fish, thanked her, and said, "Thank you for your hard work." Lu Feng saw the girl over there and called out to her, inviting her to eat together. "Miss over there, if you don't mind, come over here and eat together." The girl immediately shouted at Lu Feng and his group. "I told you, our Blackwater city doesn't have any surplus food, don't even think about trying to get your hands on me." Lu Feng calmly replied, "I just want to hear a little about the situation in Blackwater city." Lu Feng even used fishing techniques to convince the little girl. "Mina's fishing techniques, if you want to learn, I can teach you." The girl heard him say that and thought, although it sounds very attractive, but there is no such thing as a free cake falling from the sky, he must have other intentions. But, if we learn that fishing skill, the food shortage in our village can be solved. After thinking, the girl decided to say, "Then I'll bother you." Although she said that, she thought in her head, "I want to see what your intentions are." Lu Feng asked, not knowing how to address this young lady. The girl replied, "My name is Huron." Hearing this, Lu Feng also introduced himself, "My name is Lu Feng, these two are Nicole and Mina." Nicole also did not forget to invite Huron to eat fish. "Miss Huron, please try my cooking." Huron thanked him, then picked up a piece of fish and put it in her mouth. As she ate the fish, her eyes lit up. "In my head I was happy, oh my god, this must be the best fish I've ever eaten." Lu Feng saw Huron eating so deliciously, so he laughed out loud and asked, "Miss Huron is the daughter of the Blackwater City Lord, right?" Huron was startled, stood up, and glared at Lu Feng defensively. "How did you know?" Lu Feng leisurely picked up the cup of hot tea and drank it, then said, the clothes she was wearing were not something that ordinary people could wear. She was stunned, as if realizing something, and apologized. "Sorry, I was a bit rude." Lu Feng introduced himself, "I am the city lord of Xiang City." Then he said the purpose of his visit was to find the city lord of Heishui City to discuss cooperation. Huron was surprised, he was the lord of Xiang City. In the past half year, many merchants were bragging about the good things about Xiang City. He didn't expect the lord to be such a young person. But she didn't know what his purpose was in coming here, so she asked. She didn't know if the lord of Taeduong City wanted to find my father, what kind of cooperation he wanted to discuss. "Miss Huron, do you know much about the Saharan steppe? Are there many sheep there?" Huron thought for a moment and then answered. "As far as I know, there is a tribe of beastmen in the steppe. They raise a lot of sheep, and the price is much cheaper than other tribes. In the summer, my father sends someone to buy them." Lu Feng asked further, "How far is that tribe from Blackwater City, and what kind of person is their leader?" Huron recalled that tribe and replied, "Not far, if we go by boat it will take 3 days. It's just that the target is quite mysterious, we have never met their leader before, heard that she is a female beastman." Lu Feng heard this and shook hands with Huron, saying, "Today I am discussing cooperation, hoping that Heishui City can transport lamb from the Sahara to the Yushui River for me, where my ships are waiting. I can use food as a reward to pay Heishui City." Lu Feng analyzed in his mind, from Heishui City to the Yushui River, the carriage only needed 1 day, plus it was winter now, transporting the lamb from Heishui City to Xiang City would take 4 to 5 days, this was the fastest and safest route. Huron was happy, smiling widely, eyes shining, food. Lu Feng added, although Blackwater City has enough manpower, but we don't have that many horses, relying on human power to transport, I'm afraid it will be difficult to complete the mission. I will negotiate with the tribe about the horse issue, everyone just needs to send a few people to transport the meat over here, at that time I will send a sled over to help everyone. Huron happily shouted back, "If that's the case, I can agree with you on behalf of my father." Suddenly someone came to reporting to the young master. Lu Feng turned around and asked curiously, "What?" Nyoda raised his hand to salute, respectfully replied, "From the direction of Blackwater City, there was a group of people holding weapons, charging towards us." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone heard footsteps. Appearing before their eyes was a man wearing a fur coat and white hair. He held a sword and led a group of soldiers towards Lu Feng. He roared fiercely and charged forward, determined to save Huron. Everyone following behind also shouted in unison, to save Miss Huron. A group of people rushed forward like a storm. Nyo Dai and his group stood up first, raised their swords to defend, and shouted loudly, "Protect the city lord." Suddenly Huron jumped in between to stop them. Huron said, "Wait a minute." The leader asked with a dumbfounded face, "Huron, are you okay?" Huron was angry and scolded his stupid father, "Father, what are you doing? They are guests from the western city." The city lord was confused and didn't understand anything, his head was full of questions, and he let out an "huh" sound. After a long explanation, the city lord understood the situation. As he was about to leave, Lu Feng added that this time he came to discuss cooperation, mainly because he hoped that Blackwater City could write a letter of introduction for me to send to the leader of the Saharan steppe tribe. And also transport the sheep that Tai Duong bought to Yutui Lake. The lord of Blackwater City nodded in agreement, not forgetting to apologize for what happened earlier. "So that's how it is, I misunderstood Lu Feng, I'm really sorry. I was rude just now, I hope you won't take it to heart." The two shook hands and said, "It's nothing," he also did it out of love for his daughter. The lord of Blackwater City also said that after I return to the city, I will write a letter and send someone to deliver it. The two nodded, okay. After saying goodbye to Lu Feng's group, the father and son looked at each other. The city lord saw that his daughter was still looking into the distance, so he teased her, "What about this Lu Feng? He's both strong and rich. If it were him, I would agree to let him marry me off." Huron blushed and said, "Dad, stop teasing me. I'm not at the point where no one wants to take me." Then Huron felt embarrassed and left his old man behind. The city lord was still joking, "But I'm already 19 years old, I can't be gentle, I like sword dancing, using weapons." Huron couldn't help but angrily reply, "I don't listen, father, stop joking." Meanwhile in Xiang City, in the study of the city lord's mansion, "Your Highness the Princess, please rest for a while. You haven't had a proper rest for more than 10 days, Avery with worried eyes placed a cup of water on the table and advised Ellie. On the desk was a pile of papers, Ellie was writing frantically, "Don't rush, there's still one more official document I'll finish and then rest." "Your Highness, an hour ago you said the same thing to me." Avery said, but there seemed to be a soundproof screen around Ellie now. Ellie didn't say anything else, which made Avery just sigh. Ellie picked up a piece of paper and read. "Oh, Tai Duong City, recently there was a rumor that Fina City has spirit slaves." "No, this is a seductive rumor." Ellie quickly took the paper and turned back to Avery to give the order. "Avery, help me go to the police station and give this letter to Fu Zi. He should be on duty today. Tell him to immediately dispatch people to arrest him. We must eliminate the source of the rumor before the rumor spreads." Avery quickly took the letter of order and ran away. In the room, only Ellie was left, her hands propped on the table, her face full of tense, hateful thoughts. Rumor has it that she was seducing someone, a spirit. But does the Western City have spirits? Or is it spreading in the nearby cities? The young master will return tomorrow, hopefully nothing major will happen. Elsewhere, in a rented room in the West City. A man in orange said to the man sitting next to him, "These past few days, we have been spreading rumors in so many cities, surely quite a few elves have flown to Fina City." The man in brown sitting next to him chuckled and replied, "We have completed the mission extremely well. After returning, our positions in Black Iris might even be higher. We may not be promoted, but the management will definitely give us a reward. The elites that the nobles in the organization don't need might be rewarded to us. That would be great. I've grown up this long and have never seen such a good thing, ha ha ha." The two men were talking and drinking, their faces red with drunkenness, not noticing that there was a figure behind them who heard the whole story. "You're too embarrassed. I was too early." Suddenly an arrow flew straight and hit the orange shirt guy's neck, killing him before he could even yawn. The brown-clothed man on the opposite side turned pale with fear. He turned around and saw Lelisa, holding a bow in her hand, her body filled with black aura, slowly walking towards him. The brown-clothed man panicked and tried to run back, but was hit in the leg by Lelisa's arrow and fell to the ground screaming. Lelisa's face was angry, her eyes red as she glanced at the man lying on the ground. "I asked." He answered. "How many spirits are there in Fina City?" The man in black lying on the ground turned around to look but still didn't want to confess. Lelisa then shot another arrow into his leg, causing him to ache in pain. "Ah. Lelisa put down her bow, her face full of murderous intent. "Don't even think about lying, you only have one last chance." The man in black confessed only when he was too scared. "I don't know. It's been more than half a month since I returned to Fina City. Tai Duong City was my last stop. Half a month ago, how many spirits were there in Fina City? Were they male or female?" Lelisa continued to question. The other guy also confessed honestly. "One person. A female. She hadn't been sold yet. We didn't do anything to her. You know that. We, Black Iris, have always treated unsold slaves well. We don't touch them, and we don't let them get hurt. Lelisa pulled the bow that already had an arrow in it. There was a cracking sound. The last question, how many people from Black Iris were there in Fina City? More than 100 people. Can you let me go now? The other guy had barely finished speaking. Lelisa's arrow had already been fired. He died before he could say another word. Lelisa clenched her fists in anger until her body trembled. Looking at the person in front of her lying in a pool of blood. How many of my compatriots do you think have experienced your organization's tricks? Quick! Those messengers are all here. A loud shout from outside startled Lelisa out of her grief. At that moment, the door was broken down. The guards rushed in but found only 2 bodies. Lelisa quickly left and hid behind a large tree. Futu looked around the room to examine the scene. Then quickly came to a conclusion. There were no signs of a fight in the room. One person was fatally shot. The attack was quick and precise. One person had 2 arrows on his leg. Probably a wound from interrogation. It seemed that there really were spirits in Taeduong City. After examining the corpse on the ground, Futu stood up and gave orders to the other 2 people. Leave a few people to guard the scene. The rest follow me back. The other 2 immediately shouted. Understood. Must quickly report to Lord Ellie. I'm afraid that spirit will fall for the trick. Futu thought. In the city lord's study, Ellie heard the report and asked again. He confirmed that it was a spirit. Fuzi replied. The chance of the spirit attacking was over 70%. But the other party had just left not long ago. They probably haven't left the city yet. Ellie heard that and immediately gave the order. Fuzi, you quickly inform the knights guarding the city, if you encounter any suspicious elf characters, you must definitely stop them. Tell her that rescuing your fellow kin is very important. But going there and giving your life is another matter. Futu raised his hand to his head and made a flag saluting gesture. Yes. At this time, at the gate of Taefong City, Lelisa had taken off her daily disguise. She returned with long white hair, a brown robe on her body, and a basket of arrows on her shoulder. She looked back at Shiyang City with longing. Indeed, even if she stayed in Shiyang City, her normal life would not last long. Even if she could successfully save her compatriots, her identity would definitely be exposed. If he stays in Shiyang City, he will only cause more trouble for everyone. If he fails, then don't even think about it. He can only be captured and made a slave, or commit suicide. Lelisa put her hand over her head with her cloak, smiling sadly and wondering to herself, what am I thinking? It's goodbye. Lelisa turned around and left. As soon as she left, the guards rode over on horseback to obey Lord Ellie's orders. Lelisa's eyes became determined, she had to quickly go to Fina City to save her compatriots. At the port of Xi'an City, Lu Feng's ship finally docked after many days. Nicole was excited to see her home, finally home, young master. Lu Feng turned to Nicole and smiled, that's right, I'm a bit unfamiliar with traveling so far. The sound of galloping horses came, it was Avery's group coming to report the news. What's wrong? What happened? Lu Feng asked. Avery pulled the horse's saddle to a stop and reported, young master, please get in the carriage and return to the city first. I will let the princess explain the specific situation to you. Lelisa is a spirit. Lu Feng was stunned when he heard what Ellie said since returning to the city lord's mansion. Ellie took out an envelope and gave it to Lu Feng to reply. Take a look. Lu Feng carefully took the letter and tore it open to read. In the letter Lelisa wrote, My lord, I am Lelisa, an elf. I'm sorry for hiding it from you for so long. I'm also very sorry for leaving without saying goodbye this time. Perhaps, you don't know how much trouble this identity of mine will bring you. My life in Xi'an City was the most comfortable and enjoyable time of my life. Everyone accepted me, a stranger, and gave me a job and a place to stay. For that, I was extremely grateful. So, for the sake of the city that he had spent all his effort to build, I had to leave. Maybe one day, we can meet again. I hope that at that time, your Western city, your ideals, can shake me again. I hope you continue to hold on to this heart. Lelisa. What a silly girl. Lu Feng said after reading the letter. He remembered Lelisa asking him before, would he protect all races? At that time, he replied that living in his territory, regardless of whether it was human, beastman or spirit, he would protect them all. Leaving his memories, Lu Feng's face turned solemn as he gave the order. Sink, tell the wolf warrior squad to eat something. Wait for orders here, Nina go get the compound bow. Nicole, help me prepare the armor. The three people who had just been ordered immediately shouted loudly and clearly. Outside the city lord's mansion, the sky was clear, the sunlight was gentle, and the wind was blowing. Lu Feng stood in front of everyone and spoke. Once a matter was agreed upon, one could not say it without keeping one's word. We will go to Fina City to take Lelisa home. Back to Lelisa, she is on her way to Fina City to save her people. In the sky, a large falcon flew as if watching her every move. Lelisa was moving quickly on the leafless branches while holding her bow, when suddenly there was a cracking sound. A branch broke. Lelisa was startled and immediately raised her bow and shot towards the direction of the noise. She asked loudly, "Who is there?" The arrow flew quickly, aiming precisely at the tree where a blue-haired girl was sitting. "No, don't kill me," the pale-faced green-haired girl begged. Lelisa jumped down from the tree and looked closely at the girl and discovered that she was a spirit. "Don't worry, I'm a spirit too." The girl looked at Lelisa and said in surprise, she was the white-haired demon girl. Lelisa reached out with one hand to pull the arrow off the tree trunk and asked the girl, "Do you recognize me? What is your name?" The green-haired girl immediately replied, "My name is Chemo, Lord White-haired Demon Girl. You came here this time to rescue the slave spirits in Fina City?" Lelisa replied, "Just call me Lelisa. I heard the news so I rushed here." Chemo happily replied, "That's great, we have a total of 5 spirits here, plus Lord Lelisa, that's 6 people. The chance of successfully rescuing our comrades is much higher." Lelisa continued to ask, "Why are you here alone?" Chemo replied, "I went out to patrol, the other 4 are hiding in the cave, now I will take Lord Lelisa to see." The two of them walked together towards the hiding place of the remaining 4 spirits. Perhaps they had already gone a long way and had not yet arrived, so Lelisa asked, "Chemo, how far is it to the cave?" Almost there, Lelisa-sama," Chemo replied. Lelisa continued to remind, "Patrolling far from the headquarters is very dangerous." Chemo replied, it's okay, Lord Lelisa doesn't know, these past few days many elves came to rescue but were all captured. I have to stop those fellow tribesmen from blindly entering the city outside of Fina City." Going a little further, Chemo led Lelisa to the entrance of a cave. Chemo pointed towards the cave and said with a smile, "It's right here, Lelisa-sama." Lelisa looked around and didn't see anything strange, so she didn't say anything. The two of them entered the cave, where 4 other spirits were sitting around a small fire. "Everyone, look who I brought back," Chemo said. The other 4 people saw Lelisa and immediately gathered around. "Sir, you are Lord White-haired Demon Girl." Lelisa replied, "You can call me Lelisa." The red-haired elf's eyes were filled with admiration. "Unexpectedly, Lord Lelisa, you are the idol of our group of elf." A short-haired golden elf added, "This time with Lord Lelisa taking action, the chance of saving everyone is even greater. Lord Lelisa, please come and give us instructions." In front of everyone's enthusiasm, Lelisa was momentarily embarrassed. "Lord Lelisa, please sit down. You have had lunch. I have barley bread here." A pink-haired elf brought a bowl towards Lelisa. Meanwhile, a long-haired elf with yellow hair urged others, "Quickly, heat up the bread. Lord Lelisa must be thirsty." As for Chemo, she waved to everyone, "Sisters, you guys talk, I'll go out and continue patrolling. I'm afraid there are still spirits rushing here like Lady Lelisa." The blonde elf saw Lelisa leaving in such a hurry and advised, "Chemo, rest for a while, you've been outside for too long, let me do the patrol this time." Chemo waved her hand, No need, I don't have any abilities, I can only help with a few things, you don't need to follow me." Lelisa looked at Chemo but still didn't understand the situation, so she didn't say anything right away. Around the flickering fire, everyone chatted together. Lelisa asked, "Is it always Chemo patrolling outside?" The blonde girl immediately replied, "Yes, we wanted to replace her, but Chemo did not agree and sent us back." "How many days have you been here?" Lelisa continued to ask while holding a bowl of oatmeal. "The 4 of us all arrived 2 days ago." Noticing something strange in everyone's answers, Lelisa asked suspiciously, "Chemo didn't come with you guys?" Pink Hair replied, "No, we met Chemo in the forest. Chemo said that the other spirits were all captured, only she escaped. After that, she waited in this forest for more spirits to come, together we rescued the spirits." Lelisa suddenly understood everything, her blue eyes couldn't help but be shocked. "That's not right." She immediately stood up and said loudly, "We have to leave here quickly. People around do not understand anything, ask again, go. Quick, go now, or it will be too late," Lelisa urged. Everyone around immediately picked up their bows and arrows and ran after Lelisa. As soon as they reached the cave entrance, Lelisa and the others were surrounded by a group of soldiers in armor, holding swords in their hands. Everyone in Lelisa's group raised their bows together. What's going on? Why are we surrounded by knights?" Lelisa immediately shouted, "Chemo, this is her fault. Clap, 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 the sound of applause rang out. Lelisa appeared from behind the knights, smiling and praising, as expected of the white-haired demon lady Lelisa. Sure enough, she saw through the loophole. Chemo's sinister face made the other spirits stammer in shock. Why is it like this, Chemo, why are you? In contrast to them, Lelisa calmly asked, when I came here, did you intentionally make noise so that I would find out? Chemo pressed her cheeks together with both hands, her face flushed with excitement as she admitted, yes, it was just that she didn't expect that she would almost lose her life. Even more unexpected that she would be able to lure a big shot like her, the white-haired demon girl, worth 1,000 gold coins. Suddenly, a knight behind Chemo put his hand on his chest and bowed his head to announce, Manager Kim, everyone is here. Chemo nodded and then she turned to Lelisa, raising her hand to negotiate, Lord Lelisa, I advise you to put down your bow. Obediently follow us, otherwise, if anything happens to your 4 compatriots, I won't be responsible. Lelisa's hand still hadn't lowered yet and she continued to ask, are you a member of the Black Iris? You're also an elf, why are you working for the Black Iris organization, deceiving your fellow elf? Chemo raised his hand to cover his mouth and laughed out loud, Spirit, haha, stop joking. Speaking of this, Chemo's eyes turned bloodshot and his pupils turned black. I am a dark spirit, I have fallen into darkness. Lelisa and the others saw it with disbelief on their faces. Chemo continued to point at them and shouted, it's all because of you spirits. Capture all of them for me. If Lady Lelisa takes action or runs away, kill the remaining spirits for me. Yes, the knights said in unison. In Fina City, dark clouds had now covered most of the moon, outside knights were walking around taking turns keeping watch. In the prison at this time, Lelisa spoke through the iron bars to the imprisoned elves, I advise you to be quiet. This Fina City has our people everywhere. You have no chance of escaping. Moreover, for elves, what's wrong with being a slave? Chemo lifted his hair and smiled sinisterly, selling you guys to those cavalry. You can also eat well and dress well, no need to stay outside and suffer hunger and cold. You guys should be thanking me. She is so pitiful. Lelisa despised. Chemo was furious when he heard that. He tightened the bars of his cell. You have no right to talk to me like that. Chemo frowned, remembering the past. I was only 12 years old that year. In the cold weather, my mother was freezing. She was considered a nuisance by you spirits and abandoned. At that time, I swore that if anyone saved my mother and I would worship that person as my master and destroy the entire elf race. It was then that Black Iris reached out to save me. It was he who gave me a chance to live again. Now that things have come to this, I want to see how many more spirits will come here to save their kind. I must capture them all. Ha 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 ha, Chemo's laughter echoed throughout the prison space. Meanwhile, in the suburbs of Fina. In the middle of the night, the full moon and the sound of galloping horses echoed in the space. The group led by Lu Feng in his handsome armor was on his way to Fina City to rescue Lelisa. Sink looked at the situation before him and turned to Lu Feng. Young master, Fina City is right next to the forest. It takes 2 hours to ride a horse through the forest to reach Fina City. It only takes 1 hour to walk across. Lu Feng heard this and immediately gave the order. Get off your horses. Everyone, enter the forest. Yes. Lu Feng's group got off their horses and tied the horses to the trees nearby. Seeing Lu Feng holding something strange, they asked, Young master, what is this? This is a flashlight used to protect against wolves. Lu Feng replied, Avery went first. Sharp Ears heard the 2 words anti-wolf and turned back. What? Against me. Avery stared at his western city lord. Lu Feng looked at Avery with a guilty look. Waving the lamp. Hastily explaining. No, this is a lighting device from my hometown. Look. Lu Feng turned on the flashlight. A bright beam of light shone directly on Avery and Dees. Wow. It was so bright. Avery and Dees couldn't open their eyes, and instinctively raised their hands to block the light. After showing everyone the uses of the flashlight, Lu Feng turned to Mina and the wolf warriors, who were speechless as they looked at Avery and Dees who still couldn't open their eyes. All right. Let's not waste any more time. Let's go. The group continued on their way. The leader cleared the way. Swoosh. A strange sound rang out. Sink immediately drew his sword and blocked in front of them. Lu Feng behind immediately turned on the light to see the situation ahead. Chemo was exposed to the light and immediately covered his eyes. Mina looked closely at the person in front. Green hair and pointed ears. Is a spirit. Lu Feng saw this and immediately put the lamp away at his side and asked. Are you here to save the spirits too? Yes. Yes. Chemo replied. Then she thought to herself. What's going on? Beastmen are traveling with humans. Could it be that these people are also slave traders? They heard the news and came to rob the elves. Dees, who was still carrying a weapon in her hand, heard Kimo say she wanted to go save the spirits and asked, "Have you seen a girl named Lelisa? She is also a spirit." Kimo heard Lelisa's name and secretly smiled in his mind. He couldn't help but calculate, I guess this person knows Lelisa. Could it be Lelisa's assistant? No matter what, he couldn't let them ruin his good thing. He had to trick them into coming back. She quickly turned around. Putting on a pitiful face, she ran to where Lu Feng and Mina were standing, crying and begging. "Are you guys Lelisa's friends? Lelisa and the other spirits have all been captured. Please save them." After a while, Lu Feng's group was now standing in front of a cave. This was the cave where Lelisa had previously rested. "Everyone must be tired from the journey, go rest for a while, I will keep watch outside the cave," Kimo said schemingly. Lu Feng and the others who were warming themselves politely replied, "No need. Or let's talk about Lelisa's situation first. Why was Lelisa captured?" Kimo hesitated for a moment before answering. There were many nights in Fina City. There were traps all over the place. Sister Lelisa was captured as soon as she entered. "So how did you get out?" Avery asked. Kimo felt guilty when she heard that. "Oh, I'm not going in. I'm too weak, so Lelisa won't let me go with her." Hearing Kimo's answer, it was a bit off. Mina asked with a suspicious look. If she didn't go, how would she know that there were traps inside? The more Kimo was asked, the more nervous she became and the more she sweated. She stammered. "A few days ago, I stood nearby observing." "So how many people are there in Fina City?" Lu Feng stared at Kimo, clasped his hands together and placed them before his chin as he asked. "Oh, roughly about 50 people." The sound of the fire blazed up so fiercely that Kimo startled and turned to look down. From the cave entrance, a member of the Wolf Warrior Corps ran in to report. "Sir, the investigation is clear. There are dozens of knights in ambush at the edge of the forest. There are dozens more in Fina City. In total, there are more than 100 people." Lu Feng heard the report and stood up to ask. "Did you find the place where the spirit was locked up?" The other person immediately replied. "Found it. They were all unharmed." Kimo stood by the side. He looked at the guard from the Wolf Warrior team and then at Lu Feng. He didn't know what to do. Lu Feng saw her guilty expression and asked, "Kimo, can you tell me why there are only over 100 knights?" Kimo stuttered, unable to think of anything to reply. Lu Feng directly exposed. "Stop pretending. You have too many loopholes. You deliberately led us to this cave. You even lied about the number of people in Fina City. It must be to make us let our guard down. You are from Fina City, right? It seems you are also part of this trap. Lelisa must have been fooled by her elf identity and was taken away. Now, everything is exposed." Kimo was so embarrassed that she snorted angrily. That was because she was so stupid. Dees learned of her identity as a fraud and scolded her. Fraudster. But Kimo didn't care. She tossed her hair and laughed coldly. I'm the scammer. Lelisa is the scammer. It seems like none of you know her true identity. Lelisa is the white-haired demon girl worth 1,000 gold coins. Humph, after knowing Lelisa's value, these people will definitely have conflicts over money. I can take advantage of the chaos to escape. Kimo thought to herself, then she continued. She didn't tell you guys her true identity. She must be afraid that you guys will take her in exchange for money. Dees heard Lelisa's true identity and her eyes lit up as she exclaimed. Wow. I didn't expect Lelisa to be the white-haired demon girl. Her name is so cool. I want one too. Seeing that Lu Feng and his group's attitude was not as he had expected, Kimo couldn't help but shout. Why aren't you guys paying attention? That's 1,000 gold coins. So what about 1,000 gold coins? Lelisa is from our western city. She thinks she can incite discord. Lu Feng responded. Then he turned around and gave an order. Tie her up. Save Lelisa first. Deal with her later. The wolf warrior immediately accepted the order. Tie Kimo up tightly. In the sky at this moment, dark clouds were gradually covering the light of the moon. And Lu Feng below the city. Commanding the rescue strategy. Sink first battle. Clear patrol soldiers on the road. Yes, Sink replied loudly. Lu Feng continued speaking. Next, the two people holding the composite bows stood at a high position to prepare for retreat. Understood. The other two received the order. Finally, Lu Feng turned back and said to the others. The others follow me. The purpose of this mission is to save people. The mission time is only 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, whether the mission is completed or not, we must retreat. There are many knights on the other side. We absolutely cannot let them surround us. The people behind immediately received the order and shouted. Understood. Finally, after assigning the tasks, Lu Feng spoke loudly. Everyone listen up. Begin the task. At Fina City, there were 2 soldiers investigating. Sink hid behind a corner and waited for them to pass. Immediately rushed out and hit them in the back of the neck with a stick, causing the 2 of them to immediately fall down and faint. After he was okay, he turned back and waved to Lu Feng. Suddenly, from behind, a group of fully armored knights discovered their group. However, before they could do anything, countless arrows were aimed straight at the place that was not fully armored. The situation improved. Lu Feng immediately gave the order. Hurry! Go save Lelisa. In the prison at this moment, the blonde elf girl said with a sad and disappointed expression. Unexpectedly, Chemo is that kind of person. Lelisa immediately comforted him after hearing that. It's okay. I will definitely take you guys out of here. Clank. Clank. A loud noise rang out, startling the spirits. Lelisa immediately stood up and blocked them. Suddenly, Lu Feng's familiar voice echoed. In this room? Lelisa was stunned. Her eyes could not hide her surprise. This voice was the city lord. Lu Feng used his sword to cut the lock and open the door. His face was full of worry and asked, Lelisa, are you okay? Lelisa looked at the person standing in front of her. A blush appeared on her face. He had come to save her. Seeing that Lelisa had no reaction, Lu Feng asked, what are you still standing there for? Then he extended his hand towards Lelisa. A bright smile appeared on his face. Let's go home. Tan Fai Na. In the prison. Lu Feng's group had almost rescued the spirits. A member of the Wolf Warrior squad walked over with a strange wooden box in his hand and gave it to Lu Feng. Young master. This is the item you told me to bring. Lu Feng opened the wooden box and inside was something strange. He said. Come on, Lelisa. This is your forte. What? Lelisa couldn't help but wonder and looked closely at the box. This is a bow and arrow. Lelisa lifted her bow and tried to draw an arrow. She looked at it and thought to herself. I've never seen this kind of bow and arrow before. Outside the prison cell. A group of knights from the city of Fina were entering. A blond man from the Wolf Warrior team immediately informed Lu Feng. Young master. We have been discovered. Lu Feng reacted immediately. He drew the sword from his waist. He also reminded Lelisa. Take your bow. We are preparing to retreat. Understood. Lelisa replied and then turned to the remaining elves and said. You guys prepare well. The city lord has come to save us. We will follow the city lord. The others quickly agreed. Okay. In the sky. The moon was still shining. The scene in the sky was in contrast to the chaos on the ground. Lelisa and the spirits looked at the scene before them. Lu Feng's group was fighting bravely against the enemy. Lu Feng was wearing armor and a white scarf, holding a sword in his hand. He was slashing many enemies one after another. Lelisa looked on and secretly admired him. So he was really that formidable. Then her eyes suddenly became determined. She reached behind her back and took out an arrow from the quiver on her back. She aimed her bow precisely and shot at the enemy. The arrow was sharp. It pierced straight through a knight's head. Lelisa was surprised when she saw this. She didn't expect this bow and arrow to be so powerful. It could pierce through armor. I have it. I can definitely leave this place with the city lord. Lelisa continued to draw her bow, shooting continuously at the knights. The precise arrows flew straight at them. Lelisa. Good job. Lu Feng praised. In the end, most of the knights of Fina City had fallen. Only a few remained. Lu Feng raised his sword in the middle of the battlefield and shouted. Mission accomplished. Everyone quickly retreated. After retreating from Fina City, Lu Feng's group was now gathering in the forest from before. Report to the city lord. We have lost the knights. One person said. Good. Lu Feng spoke. Then he turned to Mina. Mina, you and Avery go check the cave. See if that female spirit is still here. Mina replied. Yes. Lu Feng then turned to the Wolf Warrior squad and asked. Everyone has worked hard. Are you all unhurt? Everyone replied. Yes. So Lu Feng continued his instructions. Good. Arrange guards. Everyone rest for a while. Wait for Mina to return. We will return to Xi'ang City. After finishing everything, Lu Feng closed his eyes and leaned against a tree. Lelisa slowly approached. Standing in front of Lu Feng, she spoke. City Lord. This time, I really thank you, City Lord, for taking action. Lelisa handed the bow back to Lu Feng. She said. This is very powerful. It is a good bow. Lu Feng saw that she wanted to give it back to him. Lu Feng asked back. What a good bow. Don't you need it? Lelisa blushed and stuttered. I can't. I'm not worthy of it. The Lord should find someone more capable to use it. Why is this girl not following the plan? Lu Feng couldn't help but think helplessly. Then he replied. You are the most formidable person. In this world, is there anyone better than the elf in archery? Come back to Xi'ang City with me. Lelisa doesn't want to bring trouble to Xi'ang City. She refused. Me. I can't go with you. I will cause trouble to Xi'ang City. Lu Feng smiled gently and reassured Lelisa. Why are you saying such silly things? It's only 1,000 gold coins. I'll buy you back. Lelisa listened to Lu Feng's words. She blushed. My lord. My lord knows. Lu Feng immediately admitted. That's right. I accidentally heard that someone offered a reward of 1,000 gold coins for you. But what are you worried about? Do you feel that Xi'an City cannot protect you? Hearing Lu Feng's questioning, Lelisa was embarrassed. No, that's not it. You and everyone else risked their lives to save me. I really don't know how to repay them. Then she lowered her head even more to hide her blushing face. I can't cause any more trouble for the city lord. Lu Feng didn't find Lelisa troublesome at all. He recalled the scene at Xi'ang City as he replied. As long as they are from Xi'ang City, I will never be afraid of trouble. I've said it before. No matter what race they are, as long as they live in Xi'ang City, I will definitely protect them. Then Lu Feng extended his hand towards Lelisa and continued. She was the same. No matter what trouble the West Coast has, it's my job. You don't need to worry. Just live well. But Lelisa was still a little worried. She tried to explain. Sir probably doesn't understand bounty hunters very well. Are you worried that someone will come and cause trouble? Lu Feng comforted her. If someone offered a higher reward than her, do you think that many people would pay attention to her? Lelisa asked in surprise. Is there someone offering a higher bounty than me? Lu Feng closed his eyes, put his hand on his chin, and thought about something, but he still did not forget to answer Lelisa. Well, although this method is still not perfect. But you don't need to worry. I know how to handle it. You just need to follow me to Xi'ang City. Lelisa finally compromised. Her face was getting redder and redder. I, of course, was willing to return to Xi'ang City. Lu Feng saw that Lelisa agreed to go back. He excitedly said a lot of words. Isn't that good? It's just that the job at the pizza shop might not be suitable for you anymore. But don't be afraid. I have a better position. I'll slowly tell you when I get back. And your spirit friends too. Go back to Xi'ang City too. Lelisa was grateful to Lu Feng. Thank you. Thank you, Lord City Lord. Lu Feng held her hand and gently comforted her. Thank you for what? This bow belongs to you now. Please guide me in the future. Just then, Mina returned from investigating the cave with Avery to report. Young master, that female spirit ran away. She probably burned the rope with fire. Mina guessed. She must have returned to Fina City. Do we need to capture her? No need. Lu Feng replied. Our mission this time is to save Lelisa. Mission accomplished. Everyone rest for a while and then prepare to return to the city. In the quiet space of the night, the sound of yes rang out simultaneously. Back to Fina City. Kimo was sitting on a bed with someone bandaging his wound. On the opposite side were two knights bowing their heads for instructions. Steward Kim. Shouldn't we chase them? They're still resting in the forest. Kimo's eyes were sharp and cold as he said. Chase. She turned and scolded. With your abilities, you're rushing headlong into death. There are only a few of them. You can't stop them. After scolding, she lowered her head and gritted her teeth, thinking to herself. Lelisa, this time she was lucky. She didn't expect someone to save her. Next time, dream on.